everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Here we are barreling through February. Hold on. Keep your hands inside the February. Alex Navarro, how are you doing?
Beep, beep. Get out the way. Love's coming.
Aw, and groundhogs.
No, the groundhog already did his thing.
Brad, do you know if the groundhog did his thing?
You mean Punxsutawney Phil?
I don't know.
Groundhog has a name, thank you.
Okay, did Phil do his thing?
Phil runs that town, okay?
Let's find out.
My understanding is that I think we're supposed to be due for an early spring, which has already turned out to be extremely not true. It's very cold here still.
Yeah, it's freezing today. Also, I have been traveling through February in some kind of log flume or something with the amount of water here. Just sailing along.
Your atmospheric river log flume?
Yes, Splash Mountain.
Wait, I just saw this from Phil. We're listening and we hear you. We've been planning a business update for next week. Look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for February, March, and April. Stay tuned. Okay.
So
Thanks,
you're
Phil.
telling me Phil Spencer has predicted an early spring?
Or maybe, depending on which side of the rumors you're on, an early winter. I don't know.
Phil Spencer definitely did not see his shadow.
We'll get to that in the news.
He did see a Voodoo Vince t-shirt, though, on the ground.
Man, Voodoo Vince deserved better.
No.
You know what? Voodoo Vince got a remake. That's actually probably...
Yeah.
It's probably about where Voodoo Vince belongs.
Yeah, it's an okay game. They remade it. That's good. I think it got exactly what it needed.
That's just what I needed. Alex, just what I needed was to go out and go see you and Bacalar yesterday for some fine dinner. I got to see your basement in its glory, and let me tell everyone, it is glorious.
I appreciate hearing that. It's the last time you were here, it was still very much like in progress. There were like a lot of things I was still doing down here. So this is, I'm going to say 95% of the way to where I want it. So yeah, you've seen basically the finished product.
So Bacalar and I were there, and we both agreed. So you have this kind of main area downstairs where your battle station is, your
the built-in desk and all the stuff.
built-in desk, your giant monitor. It's really cool. And then off to the side is another room with your drums, and it feels like, Brad, I'm going to try and describe this to you. Do you ever see the movie Seven?
Okay, come on.
Very long time ago, yes.
Imagine Morgan Freeman's and Brad Pitt. They're looking through, and all they have the clue is like a thread from a luchador mask, right? And they're like, if we could just find what mask this came from, we'll find our killer. And then Morgan Freeman like accidentally puts a hand through a wall and then tears a wall down. Inside, behind that wall, are the most luchador masks you have ever seen in your life. They're literally...
Just Brad Pitt whispering, have you ever seen anything like this?
3 of the 4 walls are lined with 3 shelves.
No, 2.
Okay, sorry. 2
yes.
2 full shelves of mannequin heads with luchador masks on them surrounding this entire space.
Yeah.
It is incredible.
You're really making this seem like way more like... It's
incredible.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
Can I get an estimate on number of masks?
Wait, from me or from Alex? Who do you want first?
Ballpark it.
If I were to ballpark it, I would say at least 50-something.
Okay, that's respectable.
I think it's a little more than that.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good mask number.
So not only is it the mask, and Alex, I'm not trying to really
put me on blast. Let's do it.
Yeah. You have the head. You have the mannequin, or the foam head for the masks.
Yeah, a bunch of them are foam. I also have some PVC ones.
Yeah.
Like, you can find them. I mean, they're not nothing, but they're not like super expensive, especially the foam ones.
It's incredible. And then in the middle of that is the actual drum kit, which is very cool.
Yeah.
So you can stare at the mask, but he has an audience while you're playing.
They're all staring at me when I practice. It's great.
It's very cool, but it is definitely an experience. You're probably just desensitized to it.
Because I'm the one who's been putting it together all this time. And look, we all have our collections. We all have our things that we collect. I'm staring at your Transformers right now. Yeah. These are my masterpiece Transformers.
Yes. They are masterpieces.
This is my art collection, okay?
Yeah. It's amazing, and it was great. And it was then we went to some dinner, and they served me the biggest bowl of spicy something with shredded beef in it. I forget, hot and sour soup.
It was a hot and sour soup. It was not like any other hot and sour soup that I had ever seen before, but it was really tasty.
And it was definitely had the vibe of a thing that's like, hey man, this is for sharing.
Yeah.
you ordered a thing for sharing. And good luck.
And you still had like 3/4 of that giant bowl, I'm going to say.
I woke up this morning and was like, am I old? No, I just had 3/4 of that giant bowl.
That you ordered extra spicy, I should add.
Spicy.
I should also mention.
Yeah, as I said, make it all the way spice. But it was great. It was great to see you guys. Fun to be out there.
Sichuan food is my favorite of all Chinese foods. We have a very good Sichuan place around here, so therefore I am happy.
And it was nice to get out and relax. I feel like I have been. Do you ever hear that expression? My wife says it. If you want something done, give it to a busy person, right? I feel like I have been trying to tackle all of this stuff that I've put off, and now that I'm like in the thing, I'm just trying to knock everything out, right? Like I'm like,
right.
Oh, okay. We're doing the bookkeeping for taxes and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I've got to do this. I got to do this. Well, I'm there. I'm going to call they keep bugging me for my primary care physician since I changed health insurance plans. I'm going to go do that. I can't add them. I can't add my doctor from their website as my primary care physician. And they have this thing that's like, if you don't add a primary care physician in the next couple of weeks, we're going to add one for you. I'm like, well, you won't let me add my primary care physician.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So I called them and they said, well, I did their chat message thing, and it seemed like a human. And I said,
no way of knowing.
No way to know. And I said, I can't add my primary care physician. They're like, oh, let me look into it. Oh, well, I contacted their office. They have to update something. Check back in 4 to 6 weeks. You should be able to add them. And I'm like, well, this is my doctor. If I need to go see my doctor and you give me a different primary care physician, is there going to be a problem? And they said, well, that'll come up as seeing a specialist, not your doctor. But don't worry about it. And I said, well, what does don't worry about it mean?
Yeah, what the hell?
Is it going to be billed as a specialist visit and not as a... And they're like, well, they're in network. It shouldn't be a problem. So I ended that conversation with, thank you for your information. Thank you for your time. Can you please send me a transcript of this conversation?
Yeah.
Which they were like, you can print this out at any time you like.
I never, ever want to hear from someone on the other end of a phone. Oh, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Well, right. Yes. And I was just like, your system's broken. Like, that's things. So then I called my dentist and was like, yo, man, what's up with my dental bills? I pay $80 a month or whatever it is for the lowest tier dental plan I can get for my family. How come I got charged nothing for going for my routine cleaning and it cost me $135 per kid to have the routine cleaning? And they said, well, because adults don't have a deductible and kids do have a deductible. And I was like, what the fuck? You motherfuckers, why would you do that? Why would you do that? The kids got to go to the dentist.
Now listen, all of this sounds annoying.
Yeah.
But aren't you glad you're not subjected to the abject horrors of socialized healthcare?
I know, seriously. You're
right.
My kids would be in the death
This has
queues.
to be way better.
Look, I definitely was doing the math, and we've talked about this before of like, okay, look, now it just cost me for 2023, because that's when the bill came in, whatever, $400 something with dental insurance to go get this. I pay $80 a month for dental insurance. Am I making out on this, or am I not making out on this? Or because I have the minimum for it, which is like preventative cleaning, and like then you have to pay co-pays and co-insurance and all that stuff. What is that?
I mean, I'll tell you, my dentist told me don't get dental insurance. When we left a corporation, and I was like, should I just get dental insurance out of pocket now that I'm not going to have it? And they were like, well, I mean, you have a family; it's a different thing where
the kids go. I mean, that's why the kids have a deductible, right? Because kids go to the dentist, right? Yes,
that's the thing, But for an individual, they were like, you're better off socking the money away just in case you need major dental work and just spending it then. So rather than because out of pocket to insure yourself for all that stuff, you're going to come out way behind.
So like that's the thing is like if I were to put that, let's just call it $100 a month. If I were to put that $1,200 a month, or sorry, $1,200 a year, let's call it $100 a month, away, and then it's like, oh, you need some dental work. Suddenly you have a savings account with $3,600 in it. Like, is that? I don't even know, but that's the scare. That's the thing, right? And like that's the insurance thing, and that it drives me up. Anyway. 2 insurance things, and that was today. including, and then getting everything ready for the books, for filing for taxes, for the company stuff. Patreon changed how they're reporting, and then that whole thing made me have to go back through the whole year and change. Heads up if you're running a Patreon, which is, I bet 90% of you listening to this probably have some kind of Patreon running.
You're either in one or paying for one.
Check your 1099s that you're getting from Patreon. They changed how they're reporting if you're filing for your income there. They now report gross, which means they don't take out their Patreon fees when they report how much earnings you got, which you then have to report that in and keep track of that stuff. Busy. You know what it is? I'm not trying to complain. It just feels like I'm in the paperwork, like I'm in the system, in like the fucking arcane. When in Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf is like searching for the information on the One Ring, and he goes off and he's in that library, and just parchments are flying, and he's reading about the. That's what I feel like I'm in right now. Of like, deductible for the kids. This can't be right. Let me find. The line of insurance was broken. That whole thing.
The letters upon the policy begin to fade.
Totally. Let me throw your policy into the fire. What does it say, Frodo? Says nothing. No. Oh, wait. There is. That's that's the tongue of the adjuster.
I can definitely tell you that my insurance policy is written in the black speech.
I dare not utter that tongue here.
I wish that these financial responsibilities had never come to me. I wish that I could simply be back in the Shire. So do all men who fear such times, who experience such times, who deal with such paperwork.
What we want is one policy to rule them all, really. Is what,
or at least one app that I can just log into with the IRS and say, what do I pay? Okay, done.
Anyway, that's my grousing moment. That's some behind the scenes.
Also, before anyone yells at me, I know that the IRS is apparently working on some kind of app thing for at least individual personal taxes. And
yeah,
I'm curious about that.
I think they're beta testing it.
They are beta testing it
I saw
now.
that it's like kind of surprisingly pretty good.
Well, you wait until Intuit has something to say about that.
But here's the thing, though. As long as it doesn't just literally break when you try to use it, then it is still better than the current system. Anything that you can just log into and say, here's a number, is inherently better than what we have.
Just go back to my days of the 1040 Easy. That's the name of my album, 1040 Easy.
I'm currently awaiting scheduling a medical procedure my doctor said I need, and I'm in the holding pattern of, is it going to get pre-authorized or not?
Oh, sure.
It's like quite literally the people who do the thing are like, hey, we can't schedule that until the insurance authorizes it. It's going to be at least 5 to 7 business days before they will even think about scheduling it.
Systems, man.
But hey, at least it's not socialized healthcare where you have to wait to see somebody.
Again, you'd be on the death panel, Brad. You'd be. Well, we decided we're not going to schedule it. Actually, what does the chip in your hand say at its time? You need to be retired.
Listen, don't worry. If anything goes wrong for me, I can just sell my house. I got a postcard today from a company that has literally told me they will buy my house from me if I want to sell. They will pay my closing costs. This is a great deal. How could this go wrong?
Okay, since we're all just fucking complaining, I got a letter from the IRS that said, hey, we need to check some filing for you. And all the spaces where they're supposed to fill in the form letter, they left blank. I was like, we need to check on, and then it was just a big space and then a comma. And then we have not received information from, and then another big space and then a comma. Also, that letter said, you don't have to respond to this. Don't worry. Then it said, when you do respond to this, make sure you include this information. And then it said underneath that was like, and we need to not hear from you. Like something like, we need to not hear from you within not 90 days. Anyway, thank you.
Jesus Christ.
It was, look, I know the IRS needs funding, and and as soon as we fund them, they will stop delivering letters and kick down my door to come haul me away with machine guns. But the whole thing is just, you can only laugh sometimes, I guess, if you're not on your way to prison or in horrible debt.
It is a truly absurd system. If you don't laugh at it, you're just going to go insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at Nextlander, we received an IRS thing that's like, God, it was from our filing from last year, and I think we received it this year. That was like, hey, just want to let you know that we got your filing in, and you'll be hearing from us. And I sent it to our accountant, and they're like, that's fucking bananas. This thing went through a year ago, and was like, Don't worry about it. I don't know. It's scary though when you receive letters from the IRS. It feels like very. Like,
there's no good letter to get from the IRS.
No.
There is at best a benign letter, but even that comes with a certain amount of stress before you open it.
Yes, definitely. Like, yeah. Anyway, documents. We're here to talk about video games and
wrestling masks.
And wrestling masks. We did one of those.
Yeah. So now we've got to get to the video games.
Let's talk about video games
and groundhogs.
And groundhogs.
I will say my groundhog did not come up. He has not come up for air yet.
Ooh, you should check your groundhog.
Nah, look, I leave him alone, he leaves me alone, it's fine. But I have not seen him looking around for his shadow or anything. I'm starting to think that might be junk science. I don't know.
No, that's real. We should all set the clock by it.
I don't think groundhogs are wizards.
You don't know that. You can't prove that, and you don't know that. And I can
my groundhog certainly isn't. He's just kind of a jerk.
Maybe he's spec'd for a different class. Maybe a groundhog is a
He's a rogue.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Wears a cool, fun belt and has potions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Suicide Squad, a game.
Kill the Justice League.
Suicide Squad. So this
we played this.
Yeah, we played some of this. You guys have played even more of this.
Yeah, I continued playing it after that stream.
So let's set this up because there's a bit of a tale of the Suicide Squad. This game became kind of a punching bag on its lead up from the initial release of its debut teaser trailer stuff to the we're changing things to the a new trailer coming out. It's been looked at as like a microtransaction hell. It's been looked at the kind of, I think even we said, right? Like maybe a year and a half or a year late to the kind of online service game model. What do you guys think, having now spent some time in it?
It's definitely one of those. I don't know. I go back and forth on, is it a live service game or not? Because everything about it is built like a live service game.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to connect to servers to play it, do you? Or do you? Maybe you do.
I think you do.
I guess there is no. Actually, you're right. There probably is no way to put. But it's not a. There's still a distinction between this and something like Destiny to me, though, because Destiny is still like a multiplayer game inherently. You know, like there's no way to play Destiny and not see other people running around. I guess that's the distinction for me.
Does that make it worse, though, that you have to be online for this then?
Kind of.
Okay.
I mean, the thing this is probably more akin to is something like Gotham Knights.
Yes.
Yeah, I never played that, but I've seen a lot of comparisons to this. But this very much, I mean, you absolutely can play this by yourself. Like, the top button on the menu is literally just like, get in the action or whatever it says. Right. And all it does is throw you in there with bots, because you can't play this as one character. All four of the characters are always running around doing stuff,
which you can switch to at any time you want.
Yeah, which is actually kind of a neat mechanic, I guess we'll get into. But you can play it absolutely as a single player game by yourself and never come in contact with another human being. So is it a live service game? Like, kind of, yes. Like, I guess in every way except for being an inherently multiplayer game.
They are selling you a lot of skins.
Yeah,
I don't know if that is one box somewhere on the live service game.
There is definitely a big monetization element in the background, but this also does seem like a game you could mostly just play on your own and with your friends without necessarily having to engage with any of that stuff.
Yes, you absolutely could play this just with your friends. Never look at the store tab and see the stuff they're selling, but you are absolutely going to have to engage with like 6 different kinds of currency and a absolute ton of loot drops, because it is absolutely a gun loot game. And it's a loot shooter.
Yeah, it's a looter shooter.
Nope.
Schluter.
Nope. Schluter is Schluter. I will accept. Looter shooter never on this podcast. Ever.
And it's a cosmetic game, because dressing up the superheroes is kind of
they're anti-heroes.
Sorry, the anti-heroes.
I've been running around as King Shark dressed as Superman. It's ridiculous.
Well, let's get into kind of now the kind of setup for the model of the game. Brad, what do you think, having played some more of it?
I haven't gone super far since we left on the stream. I've done 2-3 more story missions and some of the side stuff that's unlocked along the way. It's a map game. It's like an icon mission on map kind of thing, roam around the city doing missions. All of the missions, it's a shooter. It is a third-person shooter. It does have a lot of traversal stuff.
Kind of neat traversal stuff. I thought.
Yeah, that's kind of the most novel thing about it.
The traversal is cool. Like they very much are like, this is a city with a bunch of tall buildings, but they want you to get over them quickly. So each character has their own way to traverse.
Yeah,
like King Shark can just jump really high, which is nice. Harley Quinn like swings around on a grappling hook from a bat drone that flies around. Deadshot's just got a jetpack, and then what the fuck does I hate Captain Boomerang so much.
Captain Boomerang has the Speed Force.
He warps.
Yes, he like warps to his boomerang or whatever.
He throws the boomerang, yes, and then warps to the boomerang.
Yeah. So you're basically bounding around the city, jumping over buildings and stuff, like doing side stuff, like finding Riddler trophies, and then just going around doing the missions that are the icons on the map.
Yeah.
Is kind of the gist of it.
Have you played enough of each character to say they play combat-wise pretty differently?
Combat-wise, not as much. The traversal, absolutely. So I played only King Shark through that whole stream, and then basically all of my time with it since, until it started encouraging me to play other characters.
Yeah.
And
through the I'm psyched for this.
Yes, the psyched out or whatever. So that's kind of a neat idea, I guess. Like when pretty much each mission, I think definitely each story mission, and I think the side missions too. When you activate that mission, there one of the 4 characters will show up as like psyched up.
Yeah.
And if you play that character through that mission, you'll get like bonus XP and maybe some extra currency or something.
Right.
So it's like a good way to encourage you to use different characters, which you need to do because they all level separately.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I was like level 6 with King Shark.
Oh.
And then when I started switching other characters, all level 1, no talents, no nothing.
Oh, I don't think I realized that.
Yes,
okay.
the other characters do not level concurrently with whoever you're playing.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
so between that and also since the tutorial, I had completely forgotten how the other traversal worked.
Yeah.
Because it's completely different for every character.
Yeah.
Like I was fumbling around all over the place trying to like do Harley's grappling hook stuff because I was just super not used to it.
They have similar patterns or blocks where it's like you can jump and then it's like L1 to almost recharge a thing, right?
Everybody's got like
dash or squeeze a little more out.
Yes, yeah. Everybody's got like a limited way to kind of renew their traversal midair, but it only goes so far.
But they are different enough where they behave slightly differently. Where it's like Boomerang, the Captain Boomerang literally teleports 3 more times. I think King Shark dashes 3.
Yeah, you get a triple air dash with him.
And I think Deadshot like spins to recharge his.
You can recharge the jetpack once in midair.
Yeah,
like Harley, you can. Gosh, you can like dive to make her drone recharge faster, but that means you're losing altitude or height or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so, it's like broad strokes wise, they have similar things, but how it's executed is different enough.
That's the thing. They all feel different enough to play that if you're only playing one character and then you switch, it's a little disorienting. The shooting is the shooting, though. I mean, everybody's got special moves that you charge up, and I haven't unlocked a ton of those because they're mostly on the talent tree, but it's mostly the traversal that feels very different. Like, to the shooting, you can absolutely go back and forth, and like there's some neat-ish ideas that seem pretty standard for this kind of game. Like, you have shields and health, but you can only get shields back by whittling enemies down without killing them and then doing a melee on them to drop shields. It's almost like it almost reminds me of like a Doom Eternal kind of thing of like
rip and tear.
Yes, it's like if you light people on fire to kill them, you get armor back. If you do a glory kill, you get ammo. That kind of thing.
I think you get it on the counter sometimes too, right?
Yes, I think that's right. What else?
They have archetypes where Deadshot is pretty good with that sniper rifle. King Shark kind of has that Gatling gun.
Yeah.
Harley feels mid-range, and so does Captain Boomerang kind of feels mid-range. I didn't play Harley a ton. A lot of them melee, and then you can almost Devil May Cry immediately switch to guns. You can pop them up in the air with a melee and then switch to guns to get some shots while they're in the air. Not necessarily an air juggle, but it kind of seems like a proto air juggle, or a lot of times, at least in the early stuff I did or when we played together, the sequence of events would be like, there's a gang of 5 enemies on a rooftop, and now we've put a big shield in front of them, so you can't just snipe them. So you have to traverse around the shield. So like Deadshot can't just sit there and snipe them from afar. Right. You have to get in close. And then they add shields that can only be broken by melee, again, early in the game. So you have to get in close, because otherwise you'd just be sniping people from rooftops the entire time.
Yeah.
So,
Like I think they do a decent job like keeping the combat lively, for that reason. Like, you can't just do the same thing all the time. Like,
within any given mission, right? You played more than I did. The missions we did seemed to be kind of repetitive once you're in the mission.
That's what I was going to get to, is like like on paper, the combat is actually fairly interesting. And like, you're, like you said, you're moving around, you're having to change tactics and stuff. Every single mission I have done, though, is nothing but that. Like, all it is, like, literally, like I did this Poison Ivy mission where like they reveal that, hey, Poison Ivy is here because everybody thinks she's dead and she's totally not. And like, it's kind of an interesting mission, like, or cutscene. Sorry, I should say the cutscene is interesting. The mission absolutely is not. The mission is quite literally, I mean, it looks like something out of like a capture and hold mode in a multiplayer online game. Like, you are defending her big plant, and then there's two like little plants off to the sides that you have to go between them. The two little plants are quite literally labeled A and B with floating icons, you know, as if they are like battlefield control points or something. And all it is, even though this is like a relatively major story mission with, again, like a pretty entertaining cutscene. Like, I actually think the story stuff is like surprisingly likable in this game.
It's arguably its greatest benefit is the fact that they actually put some real work into those cutscenes, and the performances are generally pretty good. Boomerang aside, who is literally just doing Junkrat from fucking Overwatch.
I mean, he's effective. I hate him. Like, I despise Captain Boomerang.
You're supposed to not like him. I get it, but
like even the other characters don't like him.
I mean, he's kind of like a booger eating, like he's like who's the guy from Road Rules that everybody hated?
Which one? Oh, no, you mean like, from Real World? Puck.
Yeah, Real World. Yes, he's a Puck. He's just kind of like...
Yes, he is an Australian bike messenger turned anti-hero. Yes, totally. 100%.
Man, has there ever been like a major Real World rewatch podcast?
Oh, I'm sure there are probably dozens of them.
I'm surprised I've never heard of something like that. That seems like something
Boomerang does it. It's really good.
It's terrible.
If I were to make one, it would be called True Story.
Somebody get the phone.
Yes. What was I talking? Oh, right. So, like, that mission, like I said, that's a pretty major story mission, pretty elaborate cutscene, major character introduced. Still, you are just, like, basically defending points against waves of enemies. Like, every story mission I've done is that. Every side mission I've done is that. It's got dailies, or it's got what might as well be dailies. They're called contracts that just are little challenges, you know? It's like, blow up 3 of these big turrets that are on rooftops, or kill 10 enemies while sliding, or, you know, stuff like that.
Within any given mission.
No, those are just global. Those are just, you accept those off a menu.
Yeah.
Okay. But even they literally say, like, the first 3 of these you do every day will give you bonus stuff. Like, quite literally, they're like, hey, make sure you log in and do your 3 days.
That's right. Look, we're back on. Is this a live service or not? That feels...
And so, like, there are side missions that unlock more stuff like that. Like, I just did a mission that unlocked another contract slot so I can carry more contracts at one time to be working on. Like, it is very, very iterative you know, it's very iterative live service style.
Yeah.
Unlock more stuff, to get more slots, to get better tiers of blank. You know what I mean? It's just that upgrade loop that builds on itself constantly. And like, there is some appeal to that, but I don't know. I think that the mission design is probably the thing that is putting me off the most, of just like, I'm actually kind of enjoying being in this world. And as not a comic book fan, and especially not somebody with a lot of DC exposure, because Marvel dominates so much these days, like, it's kind of nice to see this side of DC stuff that I'm not super familiar with. Like, I've actually kind of enjoyed that aspect of it. But
I'm trying to think the last time a big DC game was actually set in Metropolis, because like, it's been fucking Gotham City so many times with all the Batman stuff, and their vision of Metropolis is really interesting, as kind of like this sort of like retro-futuristic wonderland with very vertical, like, it's got kind of a neat flavor to it. It's just that exploring it, I don't think is very interesting at all. Like, and, you know, even irrespective of the mission designs, they don't really encourage you to poke around the edges of the world very much, because all you're doing for the most part in the open world is just fighting the same goddamn mobs over and over and over again that just respawn and just keep coming around. And it, like, that stuff is just not very fun. Like, I think the combat seems to get a little more interesting as you upgrade the characters and you start adding more abilities and things like that. But the actual, like, enemy encounters, like the mission designs, like all that stuff, like around the edge, like the thing that is the core meat of what you are doing is just not that interesting. Like, not terrible, but just kind of bland.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything outright terrible about the game, but yes.
It's a little buggy in places, but not horrifically so.
Yes, I had one of the side missions I was talking about failed to trigger this morning, and I just had to, like, run off and do other stuff and come back, and then it started working again randomly.
Brad, as you've gotten a little further, do they release some of the, hey, get back on mission bounds that they have early in the game?
They do open up the whole map. Like, not long after we left off in that stream, you do a mission where they're like, hey, I'm taking the limiters off. You can roam the whole city now.
Okay.
But I did hit a go back to mission area at least a couple times as I've been doing stuff.
It can be a little funky because you do traverse very quickly, and you can find yourself suddenly outside the zone in an instant. But it's not like in Warzone or DMZ where it's like you just blow up immediately.
It's not. I haven't found it super punitive yet, where they like kill you the second you're too far outside the mission area or anything.
From what I played, I think I agree with both of you that I have enjoyed the characterizations of the Suicide Squad. I've enjoyed their banter back and forth. It's not all hits, but it's fun enough. Yeah. And I've enjoyed what they're doing. I enjoy them kind of doing some send-ups of the superheroes and kind of showing them as, they almost paint them as, I was going to say cartoonish, but they are comic book characters, but like, too good to be true, right? Like from the point of view of the Suicide Squad, these are just all Boy Scouts, and they suck, right? And that's kind of fun, like to get that model of them. You got Batman as the kind of super aggressive cop, Superman as the kind of paragon of too good to be true. I guess Wonder Woman comes off in the game, at least what I've seen, as the one who's caught in the middle a bit of like, I really don't know. She's
kind of the one that hasn't really been. Well, her and the Flash are kind of the ones that haven't been turned yet by the big bad.
Yeah, man, that stuff at the beginning was cool with the Flash and the whole Arkham Museum and stuff. That's all on the stream if you want to go watch it. Like that stuff definitely fades into the background a little more, though. Obviously, like they front load the game with a lot of good cutscenes and a lot of like set piece stuff, and then that stuff is doled out a little more. Reservedly, I guess, as you start doing side mission or story missions later on.
Like, to me, that's the stuff that feels the most rock steady. Like, it feels like I mean, even though it's a different tone than those Batman games generally tended to be, like, it's a little more frivolous, but, like, they're having fun within, a framework that they obviously know how to operate in.
Yeah.
It just feels like the game they were tasked with making suffers by virtue of the fact that it was required to be this kind of game.
Yeah, for sure. Like even the loot drop aspect, like, occasionally I'll be like, oh, that's a better gun than I've got. I'll equip that, but it's just.
But do you care? Even the thing is, like, I don't.
Like even the loot upgrade cycle is not hooking me as hard as, and I am certainly susceptible to that kind of thing. Like, like part of me actually does kind of want to keep playing this. I'm not going to because I think it would be a bad use of my time. But like part of me looks at the map and is like, oh, I could go unlock some more contract slots. I could go do this and that. Like, there's just stuff to check off,
Yeah.
And none of it is offensive enough that I don't necessarily want to do it, but it taken as a whole, and like, how valuable is this experience? Like, the story stuff is cool. The comic book atmosphere is cool. The gameplay, less so. I don't know.
This to me feels like, and maybe Brad, you can relate to this. It feels like if this came up as my like Sunday night group game or something, I'd be like, yeah, sure,
yes, totally.
I'll drop.
I'll give this a go.
Yeah, I'll drop 2 hours or 3 hours into this once a week on my off time to just get together and chat and grind for guns in the background.
Yeah, like especially if this ends up on Game Pass. I have no idea if it will, but especially if it was in a situation like that where it was very accessible, like totally, like jump in there and. You can have fun with your friends doing this for, limited stretches.
I wonder what the post game is like. I'm sure people have beaten it at this point. Do you run around and just mop up stuff?
Some people that I follow on Twitter have gone pretty hard on it, and
in a negative way.
I haven't. No, hard as in like played it hard. Gotten to the end game already, and I've been grinding that stuff. Like I haven't seen anything interesting sounding from the post game at all.
Okay.
That's
a pretty rough one for a live service, right? Like, how do you keep players in it after you've finished with the narrative content?
Yeah, like I think that it sounds like there are like super high level bosses, like world bosses or something that roam around that you can work toward or grind toward defeating, I should say.
And they have their planned updates and stories, or I'm trying to get the phrasing right.
Seasonal. Don't they have seasons? Don't they have like 4 seasons planned or something like that?
Something along those lines, yeah.
So yes, they definitely have a ramp for this thing. Like it's hard to say. Like some people will be like, oh, look at the Steam concurrent numbers are terrible, but then like it seems like it's selling quite well. Like I think it was like second most played game on PSN or something. Like it seems like it's actually probably doing fine. So I assume they will continue on with those season plans. I don't know, like there's stuff in there outside of like the atmosphere and story stuff, which is quite solid, but like I got a shotgun that does no crit damage. This is like just a random example, but like there are some interesting weapon ideas. Like the shotgun does no crit damage, instead, when it crits, it gives you it's a whole like matrix of possibilities. It's like if you're at full health, it gives you shields back.
Oh wow!
If you're below 25% health, you get this. But it's a shotgun that heals you basically.
Okay.
It restores health and shields in different modes depending on how much health and shields you have.
So if you buffed your chance to crit elsewhere, it's
right.
proccing that ability.
So you still do base damage, to be clear. It's not like the shotgun does no damage.
Right.
But that the crits translate to healing for you instead. Like, that's an interesting idea, you know?
Sounds like a great weapon for Captain Boomerang.
But also, like, you're juggling 4 loadouts at one time. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of a lot. Like, if you main a game like Destiny or something, like, you're putting a lot of thought into one character's build, right?
Sure.
Let alone 4. All of whom share the same loot pool. All of whom you're switching between on the fly. Like, it's kind of a lot.
How have you found the bots to behave during combat and stuff? Pretty useful?
I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
they
haven't
do
run
kill
into too much
stuff.
of them not doing what you expect them to do. Every once in a while, you'll see one is just kind of lingering in the background and maybe is not caught up with the rest of the team, but it's never a situation where it feels like everyone is beefing it, you know?
Yeah, like they definitely kill stuff, you know, like that Poison Ivy holdout mission. I had like 1 or 2 enemies left that were not nearby, and I was like, well, I need to go find those 2 guys to kill them and finish the mission. And then they just died. Like, my teammates must have killed them for me.
Okay.
Before I found them and then ended the mission. So, like, they do actually do stuff.
Have they, I don't know if you've gone down, but have they rezzed you during a minute? Do they, like, run over to pick you back up?
I haven't gone down since I've been playing it by myself, so I'm not sure.
The nice thing, hey, look, that res was real fast when we played multiplayer.
Yeah,
it was.
Like
you just have to make it to the character.
Instant button press, basically.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'll say about it, and I don't know if this is the case, this is just my interpretation, but like, I think we unlocked this on the stream where Green Lantern is your first target.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
we got the mission, we didn't do it.
So that's the thing, is that mission is just sitting there, or that icon is sitting there. I think you can just kind of go take them on whenever. I'm not 100% sure, but when I select that mission on the map, the Green Lantern mission, it becomes my active mission. And the dialogue, their ambient dialogue reflects that that's now my mission. But I have other, the point is I have other story missions also floating right now to do. So I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's a case of like, hey, here's your ultimate hard objective. If you think you can hang with it now, just go do it, you know?
I thought they implied narratively that there are defenses up around all
Okay, so that's the thing. That may be the case. Or maybe those defenses are surmountable, but hard to do. I don't know.
On the map that I saw when we left off, it looked like it was also in a part of the map that wasn't revealed. And again, they might have not unlocked all the.
So that was part of the thing I said, where they unlock the whole map for you after a couple more missions. Yeah,
it was it was go get the bomb out of your head, and the Green Lantern one were like looked like the Ever missions that were like going to be up there forever. And then I think what we did, we had 3 side missions that looked like they were all the same side mission at different tiers of difficulty.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I don't know for sure that that's the structure. If it is, I think that's pretty interesting. Like, I love an open world game that like just gives you a bunch of objectives and lets you kind of go about what order to do them in, and that kind of like Zelda, like Breath of the Wild style.
Right? Just go run in there, go
very much that kind of thing. You can just go. They should just let you go fight Superman right off the bat.
If you can do it, if you can hang. I really don't have anything to say. My 2 cents of having played mostly what you saw on the stream, some by myself, some with you guys, is I don't really have anything too negative to say about it, other than I'm just not a fan, or I'm kind of tired of that structure. That's kind
same.
of it. Like
it's kind of the same feeling I had again with Gotham Knights, which is that there are things about it I like. A lot of them are the aesthetics and sort of the the cutscene and character work. But the actual missions and sort of like the gameplay of it is just not doing it for me. But, the other thing is that like it's not the horrific mess that I think a lot of people were making it out to be kind of going into this. It's not great, but it is not some like massive fiasco or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, it's totally functional. Like, it is kind of bland over time, and I think it will only get more so the more you play it. But yeah, it's not some huge disaster.
And I think you guys mentioned it, having it in Metropolis, it's fun to play a DC game in the daytime. Not the ever night of Gotham. You're out. I think there's a day-night cycle, right? In Metropolis. Yeah. So like,
weather,
look, the sun is out. You can see the sun in a DC game.
I know. They have daylight there.
It's
just not in Gotham.
the sun. How are you going to put the bat signal up in the daytime? Okay,
it's impossible.
It's impossible. How is Superman going to get his powers from the sun in the nighttime? Huh?
Impossible.
impossible. It's Superman is like basically has to go to sleep, and then that's when all the criminals come out.
Look, I don't know a lot about how the sun works or how Superman works, but I know that doesn't work.
That's you can get that content in the season pass. Don't worry. That is Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. That is out now. $70 to get in there for, I guess, the base version. I don't know. They're still selling the $90 and $100 ones. That was I know the big pre-order thing was you can get early access. I suspect the price is still the same, and you get the 4. What do they call them? The Justice Scrubs or something. The costumes you get.
Oh yeah, those are the things that I think that's kind of a funny bonus.
Yeah,
you can make your villain characters dress up as the good guys as the superheroes.
It's silly. It's pretty silly. That's out now, up and running.
Yeah, I doubt I will go back to it. I guess I had part of me. There's something there that I kind of find intriguing, but
I do find my interest in it waning the further I go.
Yeah.
Again, I would go back to it I more as probably a social game than as a I love grinding out for my Luther coins. What is it? Luther
coins, yes.
Luther coins, yeah. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll come back. We got some more to talk about, including some stuff from the Steam Next Fest and some stuff from Sony's State of Play. So stick around. We'll be right back. This week's show is brought to you by Factor. Brad and Alex, I love eating.
Wow.
Period.
Me too.
I love eating.
It's a bold statement.
Thank you. I'm feeling very bold today. I love eating delicious, ready-to-eat meals that make eating better every day easy. And Factor's here to support me in that endeavor.
I was just going to ask you, had you heard about Factor? Because I'm pretty sure if you want bold flavor and fresh ingredients, Factor might be the way to go.
Alex, you've recently enjoyed Factor. What'd you have?
They sent me a box full of food. I haven't even had a chance to eat all of it yet, but I have dug in. I had me a chorizo chili for lunch today.
Oh, man.
Flavorful is how I would describe it. They also sent me a bunch of protein shakes.
Oh.
Both coffee and chocolate banana flavors.
Okay.
Those were pretty good. I find most protein shakes to be kind of chalky and unpleasant. This was actually pretty tasty. And you know what else they gave me?
What else? What else could they possibly have given you?
Health shots.
Okay.
I drank a thing that I think had lemon and cayenne pepper in it. It was just like a little hey, here's some juice. Drink that down. Make your body not hate you as much. And you know what? I don't know if it made my body not hate me as much, but it was pretty tasty.
Very good. And were they all easy and pretty simple to prepare?
Well, especially the shake and the shots, because I just drank those. I didn't have to do anything. But yes, for the food, they send you that food. All you got to do, follow the instructions. You can microwave it. You can put it in a regular oven. Whatever you got to do, it does not take very long to prepare.
And you've got over 35 different options a week to choose from, including keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more. And like Alex alluded to there are more than over 55 nutrition-packed add-ons that help make your weekly meal planning even more delicious. In addition to that, you can get as much or as little as you need by choosing 6 to 18 meals per week. I could probably do 18 meals per week if you ask me.
You don't want to test me on that. I can do it.
I could probably do 18 meals in under a week if you really
Go ahead.
Me.
Test me.
How can you get in on this? Well, head to factormeals.com/Nextlander50 and use code Nextlander50 to get 50% off. That's code Nextlander50 at factormeals.com/Nextlander50 to get 50% off. Thanks, Factor. All right, we are back. We got some check-ins here, some things that dropped recently. Let's start with something that dropped, and we'll get to the Sony State of Play big kind of wrap-up later. But Silent Hill, the short message, a free little, not even I wouldn't say a chapter of Silent Hill, but a standalone vignette in the Silent Hill universe.
I don't think it ties into any other product they have going.
So they mentioned Silent Hill in the game, the Silent Hill phenomenon in the game, but this does not look like what they showed in the Silent Hill trailer.
Oh, it's definitely not the Silent Hill 2 remake, and I guess what I mean is like it's not taken from a larger game, or they're not doing another game in this style necessarily that plays exactly like this. I don't know how this came about and how they came around to deciding to just put it out for free.
It's pretty short. I finished it up. Brad, you said you're about an hour in?
Yeah, I got about an hour into it and was like, this is fine. I feel like I've seen all of this before. I'm going to go back to Suicide Squad if that says anything.
So I think it's kind of, I found this not to be fun as far as a game goes, entertaining. I thought the gameplay, it's a lot of chase sequences, and one of the most interesting visual things is the monster, but you're always running away from it. It's got this kind of like jittery monster that's chasing you, and I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. I can never look at it because then I'm going to die.
I only did the first chase and then did some more story stuff after that, but yeah, like I didn't even stop to turn around and look at it, like you just have to bolt.
So they have a look behind you button you can push. But yeah, you wind up running away. Those are the main action sequences. You wind up running through these corridors that become more labyrinthian as the game goes on. And you do this maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times. And by the end, I was just like, I'm so done with this style of thing. Because by the end, you were literally just getting lost in a maze as this monster chases you. And you have your phone out, which has static on it, your Silent Hill static. And as the monster gets closer to you, you get static. The kind of setup for this is it's basically every teenage trauma, affliction, mental affliction you could have rolled into one story. Like it is very much, it is a story of, and I mean, the game goes out of its way to put up warnings for you to be like, hey, heads up. This deals with suicide. This deals with depression. It doesn't say these other things explicitly, but this game does deal with abuse. This game deals with basically imposter syndrome, loneliness, anxiety, social media, image stuff, body image stuff, bullying. All of, like, the character for me almost felt like a piece of luggage just carrying around all of these traumas. And less of like a real character, if that makes sense, or characterization. And I think that for me became some of the problem with this game, which was I don't know if this is resonating or doing anything for me. And there are enough things in there where everybody who plays this is going to find some point to connect to, because it's every human misgiving anybody's ever had, right? Like, oh my gosh, should I be here? What am I doing? The choices I make, some more than others. It's going to probably resonate with some people. It did not for me.
Okay.
And I found it to be like,
just a laying it on maybe thick in a way that just did not feel particularly authentic. You
know how like there are some games, like the Don't Nod games, like Life is Strange, you're like, okay, this could be corny teenage shit, but it's believable.
And it's earnest in a way that I feel like, sort of leaps over the more like, if you're somewhat cringe sensitive, I find that even the cringy parts of those games, there's at least an earnestness and a sincerity that I kind of appreciate.
Yeah, and like you're tackling some fairly serious issues, but you're giving it some teenage corniness, which makes it all seem a little more believable, right? Like,
sure.
This is deathly serious in what it's trying to portray.
I mean, it's Silent Hill. I don't remember the last time I played a Silent Hill thing that had much of a sense of humor.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Absolutely, and the characters are the main character is clearly going through some very serious things for that character. I just found it to be so ham-fisted that piled it on so deep that I was like, I am having a tough time finding the character within all of this. And,
sure.
Look, a fair criticism might be like, Vinny, this game is not for you. And like, okay, I'll take that. I'll take that as it is, and it may not be for me. I just could not connect with too much of that stuff there. And again, this game does portray suicide and self-harm, and every time they put the warning up in the beginning, and pretty much every time the character engages with that stuff, they put the warning up again. You see that warning like 7 times throughout the game with the suicide prevention hotline on it, which I'm not saying is wrong, but it is narratively a little weird. Right,
yeah.
You like to come up with this screen that's like, hey, just a reminder, if like you're experiencing these things, here's the suicide prevention hotline.
Like, there is a degree of that where it starts to feel like that is dominating your experience with the game versus just like, hey, here is an acknowledgement and a sort of like, like an upfront warning versus like a, just in case you forgot, we're dealing with this stuff. So here's the suicide hotline again. Like, I'm not saying there's no value in putting that stuff in there at all.
I agree.
I'm saying the constant hammering of it almost feels like they are hedging in a way.
It's a weird balance. And again, this is all divorced from the gameplay, which I think is not that fun. But like, it's a weird balance between we know we're delving into some really serious topics here. Me being like, I don't think you're handling this that well, and then having that title card come up that's like, we know we're delving into serious topics here. And it's like, yeah, I know you are. I'm not sure you're, in my interpretation, handling this in a more human way.
Yeah.
But it's, again, I think like you said, Alex, it's a Silent Hill game. It is dealing in the supernatural.
Is it? So that's the question I have is, what is Silent Hill anymore?
Oh, geez. I mean, we'll get into that more when we talk about the state of play.
Yeah.
This, I guess having wrapped this up, you're never quite sure. I guess that's the Silent Hill thing, right? Like,
so it is Silent Hill. Okay.
Yeah. There's static in it. Yeah, I haven't seen too much of what the general popular reaction has been to it. I can probably guess the chase scenes suck. Like, the general consensus is, I can't imagine too many people being like, that's a really fun mechanic. Those gotta just suck. It's more, I'm more curious to go see what people think of the kind of narrative they tried to weave with their characters.
Gotcha.
On one page, it's like, this could be a really interesting expose is not the right word, but portrayal of the anxiety. It's a lot of social media stuff too, of the anxiety of current teenage social media, cyberbullying and bullying and kind of, again, that imposter syndrome stuff could be, but they go so far. They go so far.
Like I'm paraphrasing. There's a line. I mean, there's a lot of like voiceover that's kind of both in the character's head, but also like presumably stuff she's heard from people in the past, that plays over different scenes, and there's one bit where some dude is just like very sneeringly just like, you got to post sexy stuff if you want followers or something along those lines. And at first I was like, man, that seems a little on the nose. But then again, I was like, I'm sure exactly that is said all the time.
I'm sure exactly that's said all the time.
Or even when it's not put in such blunt terms, like that's absolutely the vibe or absolutely the expectation these days.
Yeah, and it's like, it's that kind of stuff. You get stuff that is like your parent telling you, I wish you'd never been born, right? And it's like, that just screams out, and it's like, okay. The main character's like, nobody ever liked me, and it's like, okay.
I'm getting some real subtlety is for cowards vibes off what you're describing here.
I'm trying to balance my like, are they just going overboard, or are they really being like, no, this is what you hear. It's not what maybe is being said, it's what you hear inside your head.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, but that's that's not what they're going for. They're going like, this is what people are saying. Silent Hill. I'm not the Silent Hill person.
I think
I've enjoyed Silent Hills before.
Yeah. I go back and forth. Like, I've played some of those games. I don't think I've ever actually finished one. I always really admire the atmosphere of especially those first three and kind of what they're going for. That kind of survival horror has never really been my thing, but, I understand why those games are so beloved by people, because there is, like, a real... Like, there wasn't much else like Silent Hill when it was kind of hitting at its peak.
Yeah, I think, like... Probably the best thing you could say about it is that in the era of Resident Evil, it was like the one other franchise that really found its own identity,
Totally.
Kind of like everybody else was like, everybody was trying to do survival horror back when it was new, but Silent Hill was the one that came along and was like, okay, this is like very distinctively its own thing.
And I think that's the thing that gives me a little bit of pause about whatever Konami's current direction is with Silent Hill, is that it feels like now it is trying on 5 different identities and it's trying to see which one is going to work.
Yeah, like it's been so long since I played Shattered Memories. I don't know if I can say this confidently. Like this feels like it reminds me more of something like Silent Hill Shattered Memories than it does like classic Silent Hill, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think there's room in there, like you guys are saying, to experiment with Silent Hill. Again, I'm not even sure what a Silent Hill needs to be.
Yeah.
I don't think Konami is either.
Well, like Resident Evil had to reinvent itself a couple of times to an extent before they kind of landed on where they're at.
So the interesting thing in this, you find this note that says they call it the Silent Hill phenomenon, where it's like people are seeing teens and people are seeing a fog.
Fuck, man. Is this just another classic franchise that is now only about itself? Is that where we're going with this? 'Cause no thank you.
Like we said, I don't know where this fits into the entire Silent Hill universe, but they call it, and they say it's named after a town in the United States that it's called Silent Hill, where this was first. It's not, they're not referencing the game in this thing, but the short message is really about teens and being online and depression and cut off. They reference COVID in there, and again, it's heavy stuff. I just don't know if it's handled with the kind of subtlety that would have appealed to me.
Yeah. There is some decent visual design in there. Like I didn't play the whole thing, like I said, but that Post-it note room, you know what I'm talking about, pretty early on, like that.
You
stuff
see
like
that a lot.
Okay, yeah. So I kind of got the feeling they might bring that back, but that was done well. Like the look of it.
Yep.
I thought
a billion Post-it notes all over the place.
Like this room is like quite literally wallpapered with Post-it notes like that. I started to say that must have taken a lot of work. I don't know actually, but it's striking. It's a striking visual.
Did you hit any of the FMV stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
I was definitely shocked to see some FMV in there.
Yeah. At first I was like, man, is this some really hot? No, I think this is actually just FMV. Yeah. So the short message, it's free. If you're a Silent Hill fan, obviously you've probably already checked it out and gone through it. Again, if you're curious about it, they will put up the warnings for you, and I'll just give you this right now. It tries to explore very dark and heavy stuff, self-harm, suicide, all these things. That is what the game is about, and it is kind of crushing in some ways but it came off as a little ham-fisted to me, so it's not like I felt nothing, it just didn't resonate, but like it might with some people, so be heads up if you're going to go into that. They will, again, warn you multiple times when you're getting in. On a different note, but I can tie this in, I finished Sea of Stars.
Okay.
And I got the true ending for the game, which I recommend anybody do if you're playing that game. I really like Sea of Stars. I think it's a great game. In that vein of JRPG and Chrono Trigger and all that stuff. We've talked about that a million times. One of the most interesting things, though, is at the very end of the game, there is even beyond the true ending, you can get this extra kind of meta ending. And I guess spoiler warning here, if you don't want to know anything about this, it is kind of an Easter egg. It's not really narrative focused at all, but if you don't want to know anything about what's happening at the end of the game, then here's your spoiler warning. But you wind up having this very long conversation with what I suspect is a characterization of the developer, basically just going into shit. Like, not about the game, just like life and development and making the game and like the struggles of like, again, imposter syndrome. And I don't know what I'm doing. And like, there's this period here where I was just not sure if I should go on. And we had like 3 years left on this thing. And the character warns you, like, hey, do you want to hear the whole story? I'm not going to let you quit until, for a while here. And you're like, yeah, I guess so. I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. I've never really quite seen it in a game before. And then, the character just kind of runs off and you can do some other stuff, but it was pretty intense.
Nobody's doing very well right now, are they?
I don't know. I mean, it's touching and weird. My kids were sitting there because I beat the game with them and they're like, Dad,
what's going on?
What's going on? I was like, sometimes adults just need to vent and just gotta put some stuff out there into the world.
Game development can be therapy, I guess.
Yeah. Nobody had mentioned that to me, and I was kind of quite surprised to see it in there. And it was cool to see in a way and different.
I'm sitting here trying to think if that's a trope of the genre. Like, were there games back in the day where developers put themselves in the games much? That feels like a thing that happened, but I can't think of any examples.
I certainly can't think of any.
I don't know. I was going for, I didn't get 100%. I couldn't get the damn Moonerang 25 times. Somebody wants to do it for me. Yeah. I think they call it the shopkeeper, or I'm not sure exactly what they call it. If people know if it's a reference, then you can let me know. But it was interesting. Again, Sea of Stars, pretty cool. I thought I had put more time into it than I did, but I think my playtime was somewhere in the like high 30s. I thought it was like it was being like when I looked at like the 60s or so. Yeah, good game.
Cool.
Get the true ending. Don't, if you're gonna play that game, do it. Alex.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of another Steam Fest.
Yeah, they keep doing these. Not that I'm complaining.
Steam Next Fest.
Next Fest, yeah. There's a bunch of demos out now. I've downloaded a bunch. I've only managed to get through one of them so far, but I did like the one I played, which is this game Indika. It is not about weed. It is... I think we saw this on one of the presentations last year. I don't remember which one, but it is a game. It is a third-person game that I'd say at very first blush definitely has the feel of something like a Plague Tale. It is sort of exploring environments, kind of running from threats, not really engaging in combat necessarily. But it has a whole other flavor on top of that. So it takes place in what they are describing as an alternate historical 19th century Russia. You play a nun. They don't really explain where you are in the story. It's just like one sequence that takes about a little under an hour to play through. You're dropped in, and you are paired with this guy who is a prisoner, who like the way it's described in the backstory as you kind of play through it is he escaped at some point and either kidnapped you or waylaid you from where you were supposed to be. I don't know if you've been excommunicated from your convent or if something else is going on with you, but the devil also talks to you. Okay.
As a nun. As
a nun, and she doesn't seem overly thrilled about that.
Okay.
But on top of that, this sort of like, very atmospheric feeling kind of narrative exploration game, there's a weird element of goofiness that has like kind of a retro video game thing to it. So like all the fonts in the menus are like straight up 8-bit, 16-bit style like pixels.
Weird.
The little thing in the upper right corner or left corner, which I actually don't know what it's tracking exactly, but there is like a number counter, that is also done in that font. And the soundtrack alternates between what you would expect, the kind of like moody sort of strings and kind of tones in the background, with stuff that sounds like it comes out of a retro platformer.
Weird.
Like, imagine if Black Narcissus was a environmental platformer.
I don't know what that is.
It's a very old Technicolor movie that features nuns.
Okay.
I pulled this up on Steam after you mentioned it, and the media on Steam gives absolutely no hint of what you're describing. It's all just like scenes of very like washed out historical settings.
Yeah.
That's like such a weird detail to not promote or make clear.
And it's like, it's interesting. Like, I don't know if it all gels because, again, you're just kind of given this little slice of the game. I don't know how, like, where it starts and where this fits into all of it. But there's a real verve to what they are doing here. Like, there's a beast that is chasing you around for, like, I'm going to say, like, the back half of this demo. This big giant dog that's sort of chasing you around. And then it dies at the end. But the end shot of it is like you sort of debating with the devil about whether the dog is inherently sinful for trying to kill, or if it is like actually, it's just doing what its nature. And then the devil being like, well, isn't it technically in a human's nature to also do the things that this dog did? Why are they sinful and not the dog? And the whole time the dog's head is like wedged in between the water wheel of this thing, and it's like rotating and hitting the spokes the entire time this conversation is happening, and like goes underwater at one point. It has, again, this like real gusto that it is going for that I think is kind of awesome.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. I found in the gameplay trailer some of the like 8-bit or retro pixel art looking like the skill tree and stuff, and like this is a weird mix. Like I'm wondering if there's more going on in this game than is apparent.
There is definitely like a fourth wall breaking aspect to it, and then the big environmental puzzle that it has in the middle of it. Like you're stuck in this like mill and you're trying to climb your way out of it, and the devil's like kind of just saying a bunch of dumb shit to you the whole time. And then you get to this one big room, and then it starts really going in on you. But you have literally a press button to pray And so when it's going in on you, the whole environment goes kind of wonky. Like a big chunk of the room like splits out, like it's weird. Then as soon as you start praying, it all fits back together again. And what you are doing is moving the room in and out, trying to find your way through the platforms to get to the end of the maze, basically.
I watched the trailer for it. It looked kind of awesome from the trailer. You're making it sound even more awesome. I kind of want to get in on this.
It's interesting, if nothing else. Like, I'm not here to tell you that this game is definitely going to be awesome, but, like, what I played the whole time, the gameplay is a little hinky in places. Like, some of the navigation stuff is not, like, flawless, but it's got a style, is what I will say.
Indika, that is... It's on the Steam Next Fest now with according to Steam, Q1 2024, which I guess we are approaching near the end.
I mean, some of these games in Next Fest are out in like a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I wonder, I'm going to look on their official page. Maybe they've actually updated this. That's cool. I like when things are trying weird stuff.
This is this studio's, I think, second game, and their first game was like a VR thing that I never played, so... I'm taking notice now of these folks, and I'm really interested in playing the final version of this.
Also, their key art, their box art is pretty great.
Oh yeah, with all the nuns sort of like laughing around the girl who just looks very like down. Yeah. Also, you have a steampunk bike at the beginning.
Okay.
There's a whole steampunk aspect to this too, I think, in the background. I don't know.
That's neat. Indika, Indika.
Yeah, check that one out if you're checking out these demos.
Touch any more Tekken 8?
Yeah, I have not played much Like a Dragon yet this past week, but I did play a fair amount more of Tekken 8.
Did you finish the main story?
I'm like 2 chapters from the end of the main story. I did a bunch of the individual character stories, and I played some more of that arcade mode. Still really enjoying it. I don't know if it's quite got its hooks in me as deep as Tekken 7 did kind of at the outset, but it's not by a major margin. Like, I'm still having a ton of fun with it. I really like all the characters that I've been messing around with so far, though I am still leaning much more toward my grapplers and bears for the most part.
What'd you think of the main story stuff? If did you get past the big melee battle?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I feel like things really start to... They put the pedal down a little bit after that. Like,
I think the pedal is down pretty much from the moment that, spoiler here very briefly, as soon as Kazuya basically subsumes the devil. I think that's when shit is really off to the races.
Is that really a spoiler, or that is just Tekken?
I mean, he straight up fights the devil and then just makes him, sucks him inside of himself, pretty much.
Yeah, there's some real interesting stuff.
And then you find out a guy's an exorcist, and then he throws a fucking heaven spear at him. It's a whole thing, man.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I was kind of pretty tepid on up until about that big melee battle, and then after that, I felt like things went in the kind of wilder direction I was expecting.
Definitely. It doesn't stop, man. And I will say again, some of those individual character stories are really stupid in a way that I am super into. Like the Kuma ending is maybe my favorite one so far.
Okay, I haven't done Kuma yet. I haven't gone back since we talked about it last time. I want to. I plan to go back and do the sillier side story endings.
Yeah, they're good.
See what happens there. Have you guys kept track of like how that game's being received in the fighting world?
It's mixed. I think most people are enjoying the fighting system. There are some people that are definitely complaining about the netcode. It has its detractors, but I haven't seen anything that severe. It seems like most people who like Tekken are having fun playing this Tekken.
Okay. Again, don't trust me.
I'm having fun.
I like Tekken I like the fighting games for the story, as we've said over and over. Any other games you guys want to bring up?
We playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, but we can talk more about that later.
Hell yeah, that Rebirth demo is out now. I assume like the last one, I didn't look into it, but I assume like the last one you can bring in your save, right? They did that on the last one, didn't they?
Oh, from the demo to the... Yes, it looks like the Rebirth demo progress does carry over...
Into your main?
Yes.
Okay. Because, man, that'd be a bummer.
Players who have save data from the demo will receive bonus items in the full game.
Oh, well, maybe I'm playing the demo then. Looking forward to checking out Rebirth when it is coming out. I thanks to everybody who showed up for my solo stream of FF7 Remake last week. That was a lot of fun. Yes, archive up. Right?
Getting back into that. Because by the end of that stream, I felt like I had a good handle on the combat again, and forgot that the combat is really fun in that game.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Did you find any good materia?
Define good.
Acceptable.
Karaga?
Materia are only as good as you make them.
I forget. You level them up, right?
Yeah, you level them up to unlock better spells.
Okay. I got a lot to remember as well. All right. I think we're going to wrap up the games section here. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the news, which some interesting news out there. So stick around. We'll be right back. And we are back, and we got some things to talk about here in the news. Probably the biggest thing percolating and coming up, bubbling up from the primordial gaming ooze are all these reports. As far as I can, if I lick my finger and see which way the wind blow, and apparently Microsoft is just getting out of the console business.
That's right.
Forever.
That's right. All over again.
Nothing short of Microsoft's entire effort in the video game industry is at stake here.
Brad, what's going on? The wind is blowing.
People were acting over the weekend.
What's happening?
It's been a while since I saw something blow up during the weekend and just take over the discourse in this fashion. I guess chronologically, the way this played out, we talked about this. When was it? We talked about the possibility of Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush coming to PlayStation and Switch. That was like probably
a couple weeks ago, I think.
Early January, maybe.
It was the rumors and people weren't sure which game was going to come, but some Microsoft property.
Right.
Possibly,
those were actually, I just saw some data mine apparently turned up evidence of PS5 and Switch in Hi-Fi Rush.
Okay.
In particular. But like then, it was like, okay, sure. Those are like, one of those is a quite old game at this point. The other one was a small, downloadable, like neat game, but still not like they're, a tentpole.
Yeah.
Sure. They might test the waters with something like this. Starfield was the one that really blew it open over the weekend, though. Like, I'm not, like, credit to everybody who has been reporting this stuff, but it's damn near impossible to track who leaked what or who reported what this weekend. I think it was Xbox Era that was out first with the Starfield thing, but it was like a cavalcade of other people that you are familiar with who report on video game news thereafter were like, I've heard that this game's coming to PS5. Well, I've heard of this one. You know what I mean? Like, It's like practically their entire portfolio, I feel like, at this point. It was Starfield first, then Indiana Jones, the Machine Games one that just got revealed. Gears of War. Hellblade 2. Like, pretty much every big game Microsoft has got in the hopper, somebody in the last 3 days has come out and said, like, I can report confidently that they are at least talking about bringing this game to the PlayStation 5. But I think Starfield was the one, like Starfield is the $7.5 billion game, right? It's effectively, Bethesda does a lot of stuff, and I'm not trying to take anything away from any of the other very talented, hardworking studios that are under the Bethesda umbrella, but like, you buy Bethesda to get Bethesda game studios, right?
Right.
Like, regardless of how Starfield turned out subsequently, like, that was the one, So to hear Starfield might be coming to the PS5,
it's a huge deal.
Yeah. But
if
of
it's
course
true.
Yes, if it's true. Like, I've certainly seen people we know float the possibility that, like, is this a fight going? The classic situation, is there a fight going on inside of Xbox and somebody is leaking this just to either drum up public support or to reveal what the backlash looks like? You know what I mean? Like, people sometimes leak things in private corporate fights to try to, like, shore up their position.
Or put the kibosh on it.
Right. Who knows? Like, a bunch of people immediately, especially people who are, let's say, a little too invested in their choice of console platform.
Yeah.
Seem to have climbed up way too high. Or like,
they're at the top of that water tower now, and they don't know how to get down.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
Some like people are straight up acting like Microsoft's about to exit the console business, which, like, I don't think so.
So sorry, go ahead, Alex.
No, it's just like I with everything. I read a bunch of this stuff over the weekend, and what I gathered was that while it does feel like there is at least some genuine reporting about the possibility of some of this stuff. It's like you said, People are taking these possibilities and running with them in a way that is just completely unreasonable. Even if things are, in fact, exactly as dire as the most ardent fanboys are making it out to be, there is a reality here that has to be faced, which is that Microsoft's attempt at this console generation has not gone as well as certainly they would have liked it to.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the long-term viability of the Xbox brand and as a console maker is. That said, nothing about the way Phil Spencer and the games team at Microsoft has approached this stuff leads me to believe that they would just go out there and say, hey, by the way, we're not making consoles anymore. Go play Halo on PlayStation. Like, That's not what they're going to do. I feel like at the absolute most, what we are talking about here is the thing we were talking about at the beginning. They are going to test the waters with a couple of games that are not vital to their exclusive portfolio, see what that does for them, and I think they are going to ride out the rest of this console generation as is, and they will make their choice the next time they have to make that choice.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, not to put the cart before the horse, but if we're straight up talking about is there going to be another Xbox or not, like,
couldn't tell you.
I still feel pretty confident there will be another Xbox, but is it guaranteed? No.
No.
Like there's a chance, like would we have said 2-3 weeks ago there will not be another Xbox? Absolutely not. Of course we would have said there's going to be another one.
Well, no, I think we've been talking about this for a while. Like, is Xbox getting into the app business? Is it getting into the service business?
Well, they are.
Is Xbox a PC brand at some point, you know?
It's all those things.
Yeah.
But the question here, though, is, like, are they, like, cutting one of the legs off of that table, you know? Like, like the thing you didn't see coming is you assumed they were always going to put out their own turnkey solution to play their games. If you don't have a good PC, if you don't have somebody else's platform, you know, like there was always going to be, hey, we have a box. Yes. Hey, we have a box for you to play our games and play Game Pass on if you don't want anything else. And like that might not exist anymore. I think it probably will, at least for one more generation, but who can say?
Yeah. Nothing is guaranteed.
I think I think in this conversation we have been talking about Microsoft, you know, what we from the streaming box, right, to the streaming box not existing, to Microsoft trying to get Game Pass on other consoles. You know, they have been pushing out into places that could hint that hardware, I think, like you said, Brad, is not the sole pillar of their, you know, thing, but a leg on a multi-legged table, maybe even more than 4 legs.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Starfield being this thing too, because that's initially my thought of like Starfield. It's like you might as well put Master Chief on there. And then was like, well, if you're in a boardroom and you're like, how do we get our money? Did Starfield sell as well as we wanted to? How do we get more money from Starfield? What if we put Starfield on other platforms? You know, Starfield then starts to make some sense to me of, I don't know if Starfield underperformed for their sales. I assume it did.
Truly have no idea what their projections were. I feel like they probably had very lofty goals for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was in that top 20 that we talked about. I mean, that was not entirely complete data, but it was relatively complete, and it was even you know, being on Game Pass, it was still didn't it come in around like number 10 or 11 for the year or something?
Yeah, so
it was in the top 20 pretty firmly.
So I don't know what that means in terms of like what their projections were for it. Did they want it to be a chart topper? I don't know.
Did they want it to be the number 1 game of the year? Because that wasn't going to happen. But
so you know, do you look at those things and again in a room being like, what if we put this on another platform? What happens there? And do we recoup costs? How does this work with their acquisition of Blizzard Activision? They're kind of some of the rulings some of the things that may have happened in the EU and some of those things like Ubisoft publishing or taking over their Game Pass. Is that what it was? Ubisoft was taking over
streaming cloud service
stuff in the EU and like,
or just UK, I think.
Just UK, I think. Yeah.
You know, things are moving around, right? In a business model for Microsoft where I feel like this. If I saw Starfield on a PS5, yes, I would have to do a triple take, but then I could be convinced, like, okay, this is them trying, like you said, testing the waters out here, trying some other stuff.
I think they have to, though, is the thing, right? Like, the reality is they're not going to catch up the rest of this console generation. No. I think they can probably get Xbox in a better place, depending on what kind of moves they make, but I don't think they're going to win it. Like, that's just not in the cards for this generation because we're already about halfway through it if the years and numbers normally bear out.
Yeah.
The main thing, though, is that, like, nothing is guaranteed anymore, and Microsoft has been in a very weird place ever since the Don Matrick era. You know, they've made a lot of moves, they've spent a lot of money, but the number of games and the number of sales that have come out of that have not necessarily bore a ton of fruit. They've had stuff that has been successful, but none of it has been exceedingly successful.
Yeah, it really just feels like the games have not been there, which is not to say that they have not put out good games. They put out
plenty of good games.
Plenty of great games over the last, 11 years now. A little over 10 years since the Xbox One came out. I think that the platform, like, they righted the ship on the platform, like, 100%. Like, just what the box is, you know, getting the cable box, like, all-in-one entertainment center shit out of there, making it a video game platform again, like, making the dashboard better.
Yeah.
Like, quality of life stuff, like quick resume, like, the platform is as good as the PS5 or better in some respects, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think the console experience is great, but, like, Halo Infinite didn't really hit. Like, Gears has kind of been spinning its wheels.
It does not seem like Forza did as well as they wanted it to.
Yeah, like, they've got interesting stuff here and there, but, like, for especially for the amount of studios they have acquired over the last several years, like, I just don't feel like the extremely strong first-party output has been there that they would need to really drive sales of their thing, which is certainly reflected in they don't report console numbers, but did we talk about this? What is it? Ampere, I think, did this analysis last year that the PS5 outsold the Xbox 3-1 last year.
Yeah,
we talked about that. I feel like we mentioned. I think we did talk about that on this podcast. Yeah, like, you know, it's not great.
No.
Games Industry Biz has a report here from October 25th, 2023. Revenue up 13% year on year. This is for Microsoft. Operating income up 25%. Net income up 27%. Personal computing, including Xbox revenue, up 3%, 13.7 billion. Xbox content and services up 13%. Gaming revenue up 8%. Xbox hardware revenue down 7%.
Right.
So, like, software, services, everything up, but the hardware revenue, right? And if you're looking, again, if you're internally looking at that stuff, and I think you guys have hammered this point home, you're probably not turning that around.
Not all the way, no.
Where do you double down, right?
Yeah.
Get those games out to people? I don't know.
I think what they probably do is they are riding out this generation bare minimum. I think they are going to keep selling the hardware as long as this generation is going, and they will take a long, hard look about what the next generation of Xbox is, if it even is a box or not. The real thing in all of this is that if Microsoft does, in fact, find themselves getting out of the console market, either this week or several years from now, Don Matrick's going to have to go into hiding. That man is going to have to wander the Northern Territories like fucking Logan.
Dude, it's fucking, I still cannot, even now, I still cannot believe things played out the way they did after the momentum they had with the 360. Everything they did right with that platform, all the exclusives and, like, big games they had.
Yeah.
What happened? I mean, I know what happened, but still, how did that happen?
You got rat fucked by a bad executive. That's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, he bears plenty of blame. I'm sure he was not the only person around there, though, who was looking at, I mean, I guess in some sense they did have a reason to believe that, like, hey, this could be the epicenter of the living room soon. Look how many people are watching Netflix on this thing, like, look at how many people are using this for not, like, they basically started apps on consoles, like, to be fair, 360 basically, I mean, I could be like wrong in a technical sense here, like maybe the Netflix disc for the Wii shipped first or something, you know what I mean? But, like, Netflix on 360 was huge, that was a thing people did with their consoles, and they're like, I guess to some extent they were like, hey, we could make this like all things to all people, and then they super didn't.
Well, I think it's not that I think they made universally bad bets. I think there are aspects of what the Xbox One was that bore out as indeed being reasonably forward-thinking for some of where the console market was heading. The problem was they threw so much of that TV stuff in the upfronts. Yeah. Like, they really de-emphasized the gaming aspect of it.
HD DVD.
Yeah, and when it became time to deliver the messaging about why that stuff was important, they had nothing but just sort of an impertinent kind of pissy kind of reaction to the idea that maybe that's not what people want from a console, you know? And that's where they, like, you can wobble a little in your messaging, but if you wobble at the exact wrong time, you're going to fall off the fucking bike. And that's what happened. They wobbled at the worst possible time, and then Sony literally just, they threw them an underhand toss, and Sony just connected. That's it.
Like, Sony stuck a knife in them. Like, I've never seen one company knife another company. You know,
because they made it so easy.
Between undercutting them on price, not to sit here and relitigate the launch of old consoles or whatever, but like between undercutting them on price and the DRM kerfuffle and the straight up, like, here's how you share games on the PS4, even though Sony now has basically also completely gone down that DRM route. But at the time, like, that 1-2 punch, just like, I think they are still trying to come back from that. And
I've seen some people say that, you know, I forget if it was analysts or just people talking, but like, you know, and I think this point is correct. They lost the worst possible generation to lose. Not because it was the biggest one, but because it was the one where everyone started building their digital libraries. It was the one where everyone really started buying into downloadable games on consoles, way beyond just the Xbox 360 arcade stuff. And once you had kind of made a lot of those purchases and made a lot of those, you know, library decisions, you're not going to just switch to the other console the next time around.
I want to say Microsoft said that. That might have been Phil Spencer.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was Phil that said it. I don't remember, but yeah.
Phil thing, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
And if Phil said it, then he's right, and he understands, because, like, yeah, that is 100% true. Like, I own both these consoles, and I have big digital libraries, but I am the edge case.
Right.
Most people don't do that.
Yes, you got deep into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's we'll again, TBD on any of this. So Microsoft, Phil Spencer has said they'll we're listening to the fans. We'll have more. Well, they're going to talk about it as of this recording next week.
Don't listen to all the fans, man, because they are saying some truly out of pocket shit out there.
There's some really deranged stuff going on out there.
When was the HD DVD? Was late 360?
I don't remember what year that was. No, that would have been early.
Is it early?
Because Blu-ray, remember, like, Blu-ray debuted with the PS3.
Yeah, so I think around 06.
Yeah, so it was like 06, 07 when they made that big push.
What a different world we could have lived in if they just won the format wars.
Yeah.
You know, they could have broken the consortium.
I think Blu-ray was legitimately a better format.
Did you guys ever own one of those drives?
Yes and no. No, somebody sent one to the office.
Okay.
At some point with a bunch of their movies, most of them still unopened.
Okay. Alex, did you have one?
I never had one, but I've seen some HD DVDs. Like, okay. I knew someone that had one of the players.
Yeah, I bet we wind up in some situation where it's probably some of both, at least for the next 5+ years.
Yeah.
They're going to dip their toes.
Yes, like I would expect, even if everything is true and all these games are coming over, I still would expect it's like a relatively long, like, exclusivity period or something.
Yeah, timed
exclusive.
It's
gonna be, like, Sony's doing the same thing with PC already. Like, all of Sony's big games are coming to PC now on a delay. Like, this could absolutely just be basically the same thing, except to the console with a way bigger install base.
I haven't dove too much into kind of the real fan kind of flag waving on this stuff, but it is, from what you guys can gather, and I know you can't read their minds, but I'm sure you could read their blog posts or whatever they're putting in their tweets or whatever they're shouting out there. Is it like you're putting it on another console betrays the, like, sanctity of this console, or is it? They're definitely not saying the PS5 is a better console. Why would I play it on an Xbox? Right?
I mean, I think the most generous interpretation you can give of that stuff is that they are worried that this is undermining the platform that they've invested in, and that it's going to go away in the future. That this is like a bad move.
That they love the hardware itself, or the idea, the ecosystem so much.
I mean, that's what they're saying, but let's be real. It is a deep paranoia that I bought the wrong $500 box.
Yes,
that's all it is.
Yes. I do think the people who look at this and just go like, oh, you're just being like a shitty gatekeeper and you don't want other people to play these games are wrong. I think it's much more what Alex said, that it is absolutely
back the wrong horse.
Did I back the wrong horse? Mm-hmm. And is the horse that I backed going to get taken out behind the barn now that this is happening?
Yeah. Look, I I don't want to lose my Xbox library, but I feel like that's not in danger of happening.
I don't think that's what they're talking about.
No. I mean, like you could like kind of like you were talking about with like the different line items on their revenue report or whatever, you know, like Microsoft just wants to make money.
Yeah.
And granted, they're not going to like sink hundreds of millions of dollars into an initiative that's losing most of that money, you know, like if their hardware sales like really tank, obviously they're not going to do it forever, but like, you know, we mentioned recently they're a $3 trillion company now.
Yeah.
Like as long as the Xbox is making some money in hardware, if they're making money from all these different things,
right,
then like they don't have any reason not to keep putting hardware out as long as it's still doing well enough to keep people playing games on it, right? Like, again, maybe the hardware business tanks enough that it's not worth it anymore, and then they do go software only, streaming only, that kind of thing. But
I wonder how
like,
it is.
Like, I guess like, the point I'm making is just like, hey, like if anybody has the resources to keep putting out Xboxes as one option out of several, like they do.
Yeah. And, you know, as communities build and online games build, and Microsoft has, you know, pretty good hooks into the PC, let's say, if they can bring in other bases for online games, I'm sure they look at that as more monetization of people off platform, right? That's that's where we just talked about Suicide Squad. A lot of games here are trying to get that monetization outside of launch, right? And how do you keep a live service thing going? And it's people, and I feel like Microsoft has talked around this a lot.
Yeah,
this
they
concept.
have.
Yeah, so we'll see. You think we get a fairly clear answer of what the next steps are when they have whatever they have next week?
As of the shitstorm, I think they're probably going to make sure their messaging is pretty clear.
You think it's like, number one, your Xbox console is not going away. Number two, you can expect certain titles to see. We want the world to play certain titles out there.
It's hard to. This is just kind of my read on like how Phil Spencer's like stagecraft or demeanor, you know, as a public figure. Like I don't see him coming out and doing damage control so much as doing a more like uplifting. Here's why this is good for everybody kind of thing.
And these games will always be available on your favorite Xbox console kind of thing. Yeah.
I do think some rewrites are probably happening right now, just to make sure that they try and quell a little bit of the uprising.
I think it was Jeff Grubb of Giant Bomb.
Him.
I think had said like the day before or even like hours before Phil tweeted this that some kind of business focused event was coming for like the end of the month. Okay. I believe is what that timing could have been floating around, but the point is I wonder if they actually moved this up a little bit because they knew they couldn't sit on it forever while this was going on.
Yeah.
So when Phil comes out to do this one in a Horizon shirt that we should with Aloy, or I guess
man, I would yes. It's, everybody knows he's got his penchant for wearing T-shirts with games he likes on them. Like if he comes out in a
Kratos,
he should come out in a Jack and Daxter shirt or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I look. Also, if this happens and some games do start getting onto other platforms, it's going to be on Sony to also be like, hey, yes, no. And then also be like, do they reciprocate? Is that a world where now we get stuff moving on cross-platform in ways that we've never seen before? Do we shake hands? Do Xbox and Sony say, look, the console wars are over. It's now the live service wars. Who monetizes the back-end transaction?
Who knows? Who monetizes the monetizers?
That's right.
I don't know. Who knows, man? Maybe
who knows?
Maybe this is some kind of gateway to some amount of Game Pass getting onto a PlayStation. Who knows? Who knows what they have been talking to Sony about? I don't know.
Maybe the Switch 2 is just an Xbox.
I don't know, man.
Maybe when Nintendo gets out there, they're just making an Xbox. Put Mario on the Xbox.
Gonna mention this was very recent. I think like a couple weeks ago, the CEO of Sony, not the head of PlayStation. I mean the CEO of Sony, said in an interview that like basically the same stuff. Like PlayStation will remain our core product, but we will expand our gaming experiences to PC, mobile, and cloud. Like
there you go.
Everybody is diversifying because that's just the direction of the business. This definitely seems a little more dire because they are trying to make up this big shortfall. But it's not like Microsoft is the only one pivoting and expanding and stuff. Things are just going to look weird in 5 years.
Yeah. Hey, if you, I want to just reiterate this because I feel like it's my main point here. If you have acquired all these studios and are now making all this software, somebody in a room is going to say, how do we sell more copies of this? What's the number one selling console? It ain't ours.
Yeah.
Can we get it on this other thing?
Like I was tempted to say to the people freaking out that the Xbox is going to die or whatever, like, they didn't just invest $75 billion in acquisitions over the last 4 years to cut and run, or like pull the plug or whatever. At the same time, that's probably cold comfort to the people who think they just bought the wrong console.
Totally. Yes.
Because they could have bought a PS5 3 years ago and they will get to play these games too.
Just saying, the only way to make good on this is to reintroduce that Game Pass for $1 a month thing. It's just, if you're listening, that's really the only way to do this again, and let me buy 12 months of Game Pass again for $1.
Yeah. The last thing I was just going to mention, like on the topic of will there be another Xbox or not, like, I don't know, they have to commit fairly soon, I guess.
Hardware-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're going to start developing.
I'm sure they're already in design on it at a minimum.
But you mean like put the order in for chips?
Yeah, that stuff I think doesn't happen until like the last year or whatever. All the manufacturing, I'm just ballparking. I don't know for sure, but like that's a big enough investment and requires enough lead time that if they're going to pull out of the idea, they're probably going to have to do it pretty soon.
I just don't see it. Not this one. I've been out there waving the flag for Microsoft is probably going to get out of the hardware business, and I still don't see it that in the
not like this.
In fact, again, like a company with that deep of pockets, like it almost seems like you just play it safe and go ahead and make the investment.
Yeah,
even if you're not sure it's going to pay off, just like the cost of, who knows, maybe Sony explodes.
Yeah.
Or something, maybe there's some opportunity they don't see coming right now that like the cost of not having a box ready, it's not like you can change your mind if you already pulled out.
Well, like I was saying, Sony out there announcing their state of play, the state of the play. What is the state of the play is healthy. They went out there and they had a state of play last Wednesday,
I believe.
And it was pretty chock-a-block.
Yeah.
I would say the first half of it, I wasn't like all up on the edge of my seat, but
most like ports and stuff. And any thoughts on the Sonic business?
Not really.
My kids are gonna love it.
Okay, sure.
Dave the Diver coming in. That was the game with the anime-ish game, Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade.
Yeah.
We got the Until Dawn stuff, which I thought maybe my memory, it's one of those things where my memory of Until Dawn is better than what it actually looked like. I didn't think it actually looked much better.
This is like totally different.
Yeah. When I was watching, I was like, yeah, totally, Until Dawn. This looks exactly like how I remember it.
Yeah, so kind of the whole back half is like all new stuff or reveals, I guess.
Yeah.
For the most part. Well, a couple exceptions, but yeah, that Until Dawn remake is one of those. Like they're remaking it in Unreal Engine 5. So it's not, I figured it would just be a little remaster or whatever, but they're like rebuilding the whole game. They made a big deal about giving it a third-person camera, which I'm trying to think, like, do all the Supermassive games have fixed camera angles? I guess they do, right? They've never had like a traditional behind-the-back, like follow you around third-person camera, have they?
Jeez Louise.
No, I thought they did.
I can't think of one. Like, I'm trying to think back to The Quarry is mostly... Like, I'm not saying the camera is completely static. Like, it follows you a bit as you
There's
move.
like the over-the-shoulder view in a lot of cases.
There? Okay. Anyway, for whatever reason in the blog post about this remake, they make a big deal out of the fact that it has a proper third-person camera now for the first time.
Okay.
Sure.
Also, I don't think it's Supermassive doing this remake. It's a different studio.
Yes, I saw that in the trailer blurb. Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. After The Quarry, I thought about going back and playing Until Dawn, but I might as well just play this better version now.
Until Dawn's great. It's a fun game. Silent Hill 2. This is where the Silent Hill short message was shown and announced. And Silent Hill 2.
Yeah, is this the first time they've shown gameplay from this remake of 2?
They've shown little pieces here and there, but I feel like this was definitely the most substantial, like, in a row gameplay they have shown.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks very modern Resident Evil.
Sure, yeah.
Which I guess of course you would do that.
I'm not the biggest Silent Hill fan in the world, and I am definitely not here to say that they have definitely fucked this up in some way, because I just don't have that level of attachment to it. But man, I was not excited about Bloober Team doing this before, and none of what I saw here made me feel like that was unjustified.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look bad, but I also don't have the attachment to Silent Hill. I played the first two some when they came out. Like, I can't say for sure how authentic. Well, I mean, I can say one thing: there's no shot in this of just dude wandering around in streets so foggy you can only see about 10 feet in front of your face.
Yeah,
which feels like the quintessential Silent Hill experience to me.
It's a very action-y trailer they showed.
Yeah, it's a lot of third-person shooting and more third-person shooting and some puzzles. Like I said, very, very recent Resident Evils.
Somebody turns a wheel, like a steam wheel at some point. So
I don't know. It makes me think back to playing those games, though. Like the PlayStation 1 hardware was so limited that those games, at least in parts, the way I remember them, they're almost like kind of impressionistic in a way, you know? Like they could show so little at one time with all the fog and everything that like it very much like your mind just had to fill in a lot of the horror that you couldn't see kind of stuff. You know?
Look, Pyramid Head only had a couple of sides for a reason, right? There's only so much geometry you could do on a head. What'd you guys think of Rise of Ronin?
It looked all right.
Yeah, it looked okay. I had been kind of curious about that game. That's Team Ninja, right?
I think so, yes.
It's like their open world 19th century Japan game.
Yeah.
It looks okay. Like, graphically not blowing my mind at all.
No.
So interesting. Like, okay, I'll say this. The part where he grapples a guy who's up on a watchtower and just pulls him down to the ground, I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
it had some interesting flourishes, and I did like what they showed of just kind of walking around in that world, because I do think that is actually kind of a novel setting for a game in Japan. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of the last Team Ninja thing that really got me excited, and it's been some time.
It definitely looks like Team Ninja Combat. I mean, the mix of guns and swords seems like it could
Wo
be
Long
cool.
didn't do a lot for me. I was never really got into the Neo games, though I know some people fucking love them. So maybe this is just not aimed at me.
I think for me, I like the stuff. I think it's earlier in the trailer. The city stuff seemed more interesting than the out in the field stuff. Like
that's where I came off on it too.
I like that they're doing. I don't know. I guess I'll call it fantastical weaponry, like the grappling hooks, and then the. I think he's got a flamethrower at some point, and like, we'll make you some. We'll fill out your fantasy of what this should be versus the reality. That's fun, but when it cut to the stuff that was out in the kind of bigger field, just looked like a game I had played already. Versus the city stuff, which is like cool. I like city stuff. Take my Ronin into the city.
I'll give that one a shot, if nothing else.
Brad, you gonna put it on the VR for Metro Awakening?
I don't know, maybe. That seems like that could be a cool VR thing.
Sure. I'm so behind on Metro.
I would not even attempt to try to catch up on anything. I would just try it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the potential issues around first-person shooter VR stuff that is inherent to the whole activity. If you're doing a lot of moving around, it could be pretty nausea-inducing, but other than that, this seems like a pretty cool setting for VR stuff.
Yeah. I'll take more on the VR.
You know what I was actually kind of super interested in is this Legendary Tales, the other game.
The one that looks super goofy?
Yes, which actually is launching the day this podcast goes up.
Oh, it's out already? Yeah, that looked very VR.
Yes.
Silly.
But it looks like it's going for it. It just looks very like unapologetically like, hey, what if Skyrim but physics on everything?
Sure.
Like, what if you were actually swinging all the stuff and all the swords interacted with each other interestingly? And like, I don't know, this looks kind of bananas in a way. Like, it looks generic.
Yes.
In one sense, but also it looks like it's multiplayer.
And there's also, I think, some magic casting in it, too.
Yeah, there's magic. It's straight up, it looks like it's straight up dual hand, like sword and magic type stuff. Very physics driven.
Yeah.
Also, there's a Captain America shield, apparently. Also, there's the Thor hammer. Now that I watched the trailer again, I forgot that you straight up get your hammer struck by lightning.
Oh, right. It's like the teaser at the end or something, right?
This looks a little shameless in a way that I'm kind of into.
Yeah. Look, again, I love some silly VR. A lot of times the sword play in VR just has me going up to guys and just trying to clip through and stab them and break the VR, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm above it.
I may have to try this at some point.
What else? Oh, the Judas stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of got me back on, actually. I don't know. It did more for me than the initial thing.
I don't know.
Yeah?
I'm getting a real feeling like maybe Ken Levine knows how to make exactly one kind of game.
Definitely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm straight up shocked at how BioShock it does look.
You're BioShocked?
Also, I'm going to be real, the way that game is described in its description has a real, people got mad at me on Twitter, so I wrote a whole game about it kind of feel. The whole, it's a society where everyone tears each other apart for the good of the people and the government and all that stuff. And it's like, did you get some teenagers yelling at you and now you're stewing about it? Because that's what this reads like.
I like the part where they rebuild the skin on the hand.
Yeah, that looked cool.
There's some neat visual flourishes in there, to be sure. Like, it's not that it looks bad. It's just that, listen, I read a lot of Chuck Palahniuk books.
Uh-huh.
That guy writes one book over and over again for the most part.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like maybe Levine is in the same boat.
God, I'm looking at it again. I missed this detail the first time. There's this cowboy guy on stage singing or whatever. The audience is full of lit up thumbs downs. Everybody's just got signs apparently that light up as thumbs up and down that you use to signal to the performer.
That's not a commentary on society. That's just society, right?
That's maybe a little
definitely
not. It's the art design and the dual handing gun and plasmid stuff. Really, that's to me is just man, that is I get having a wheelhouse, but this is just that again.
Especially considering all the time he has been sitting working on presumably whatever this is, his narrative Legos project, shutting down Irrational and starting his new studio and all that stuff. This is... I was kind of maybe wondering if he was going to try and break out a little more from just what we know of Levine.
Yeah, I mean, it is the maybe narrative Legos is getting a little overplayed at this point, but whatever it is they're doing... that's the thing I'm interested in.
Yeah,
and they could totally fail to deliver on that. But
yeah, we don't know. I'm just saying it's that as a first impression, I was just oh, okay, still doing this.
Yeah, I guess what I mean is if the story branching and decision making is actually as robust and flexible as they say it is, then I can live with everything else about this kind of just looking like that again.
Mm-hmm.
If it does something really interesting with, just because I feel that doesn't get explored that much. I think Dying Light 2 is the last game I can think of that tried to really branch the game dramatically and make things change quite a bit based on decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're kind of hyping this up even beyond something like that. And so either this is a lot of hype or it's going to be pretty interesting from a kind of narrative flow standpoint.
It's a tough thing to pull off.
Yeah.
Speaking of wibbly wobblies, I'll tell you, I say it again, this got me more excited for Judas than I was at the initial reveal. I think the initial reveal, I was I played BioShock. That was my initial reveal thing, but this seemed to visually be at least kind of interesting to me. Maybe it's because I like sci-fi stuff. Give me some good sci-fi.
Yeah. Nonsense. I mean, looking at kind of the style, what is this kind of turn of the century looking style? The robots have this ramshackle, almost steampunk looking vibe.
Yeah.
It really internally looks like more Rapture, they did Rapture underwater, then they did Rapture in the sky, now they're doing Rapture in space.
Get your Raptures in space.
Maybe that's core to what the story. Maybe there's actually self-reflective commentary going on here. I don't know.
Maybe
Let's
it ties
hope
in. Maybe you will get a plasmid.
There was all that business at the end of BioShock Infinite,
You're saying there's gonna be a lighthouse.
Always a man in a lighthouse and blah blah blah. Who knows? I'm giving some benefit of the doubt here. But really, it's just the mechanical stuff that I'm curious about with the storytelling.
Sure.
Anything else you guys want to jump on quickly here before we probably get to what the biggest thing here was Death Stranding 2.
I think that kind of is everything else. Dragon's Dogma they showed briefly. That looks fantastic.
Looks good.
I'm very curious to try that.
I think there's Helldivers 2 stuff, but that's coming out in like a day or two.
Yeah, there's stuff at the front like Foam Stars and Helldivers, which is basically out.
Yeah. V Rising, which is a game I still wanted to play from the PC, but kind of just looks like original Witcher to me. I don't think it is, but it always looks like it. But Death Stranding 2.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go,
buddy.
Your big cinematic trailer here. I watched it 2 times, then I watched somebody else watch it and talk about it because I was like, I don't think I remember enough about Death Stranding to what's going on here. And then they were like, I don't know what's going on either. I'm a Death Stranding expert and I don't know what's going on here. Like, we can only just assume. So what do you guys think?
I am on record saying that there were things about Death Stranding that I admired. Mostly, I think that the exploration of the world and the traversal stuff was kind of neat. I thought the infrastructure stuff was a neat system. I thought it had some really good-looking technology in it, the sci-fi tech. The rest of it is kind of where it lost me. And what I have seen of this so far does not give me a great deal of hope that maybe Kojima learned the right lessons from that game, or at least the lessons that I would have liked to have him to learn, because they are really leaning into the look at all the celebrities we got, and here's more Death Stranding.
For sure.
George Miller.
Uh-huh.
L.L. Fanning.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
To his credit, a lot of the people he has tweeted about coming by to be scanned actually are in his games now. Like, at least we can see, we can see there was a proof, or there was a purpose to him collecting all those digital scans besides just wanting to possess celebrities in some form.
Catch them all.
No, I know. Like, I've joked about this a lot. I know that he was doing this because he was probably going to try and find a way to turn a lot of these people into NPCs, if not actual voice performers. But I don't know. Like, there are some neat flourishes in that trailer that I like, and there are some that I don't. I thought the stuff with Fragile and her weird gloves that are a necklace that also smoke for her are pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
I light her cigarette, I guess.
Yeah.
The gloves are kind of interesting. That little marionette I'm 100% on board with that marionette.
That's the other one I liked.
That dude rules.
I think is also like a German director. I don't know the who Kojima admires.
Who did he say it was?
Did he?
It was, I was looking at a lot of write-ups of these things because I don't know Hollywood and I don't know who the people are to get.
Who plays the puppet in Death Stranding 2?
Yeah, so I thought those things were cool.
Yeah, no, those were the things I thought were cool. I don't think the lightning guitar guy is as cool as Kojima thinks it's cool.
I think it's entirely absurd. Like,
yes.
I admire the audacity of it, and the visual of the guy shredding to fight is pretty good, but yeah, I don't know.
I think that's Higgs. I think that's the guy from the last game.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's definitely
Troy Baker.
Troy Baker and everything.
So here's the thing. Higgs sucked in the last game. Like, Higgs was a bad villain.
It's pretty bad. I also did not love, I really liked Death Stranding until basically it started wrapping up, and then I thought the narrative stuff was poo-poo.
Yeah.
And then I think watching this trailer, I enjoy seeing what Kojima thinks is cool.
Yeah.
And like being
even if I wildly disagree with it.
Even if I wildly disagree, where it's just like, and then questioning, do you think this is cool? Do you think people think you think this is cool? Like, there's a couple of layers going on there. Is this ironically cool? Is this corny?
That is exactly the right question to interrogate here.
The questions with BB and Lou, and is there a BB in that other suit that's fighting the Higgs?
Do we know who Lou is or was? I can't remember.
Lou's the baby.
Okay.
Luis, I think is it Luis at the end? I can't remember.
I forget if they give him a full name or not, but yeah,
it's a her. Thank you.
Her. Sorry.
And then like they show a picture of what's his face with the baby. Like we don't know if that's the baby. They've changed bridges to drawbridges, which is like you are you are just. This is the stuff.
I'm all for an artist bebopping around his own world and deciding to do whatever he wants to do with it. It's fine. Like, I don't have to like it. It is what it is. I'm glad Kojima's out there making whatever he wants to make. But I don't think Death Stranding is actually a good game, and I'm going to play this one because I'm too curious not to.
Yes.
But I don't know that I am necessarily convinced that this is going to be the one that wins me over.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I really liked playing Death Stranding for what it's worth, so all the shots of the landscapes and the gameplay stuff in this, I mean, you could barely describe it as gameplay. Mostly just like walking around on a landscape tone piece stuff.
Well, there's that one shot of Sam walking around and the bridge disintegrates behind him, and I'm like, that's the part I hated.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I thought that was very intriguing.
Don't break my bridges.
Watching that bridge wash away in the river. Although I'm very curious about where the gameplay stuff goes.
Yeah,
there was definitely something there.
If Death Stranding was a lot more of Chapter 3 and a lot less of the rest of that game, I would have loved it.
I spent so much time in Chapter 3, and then once they started taking things away, I fell off of it.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's in Mexico? Is that where they are?
I don't think so. There are references to Mexico as another state.
Okay.
Like the UCA. But I don't believe it's set there, was not the vibe I got.
I mean, it's possible they go there. I mean, they might be trying to connect more of the larger North American continent.
Yeah, I think that stuff was more kind of talking about like what constitutes a nation state in this post-apocalyptic setting. And
well, they basically, I think Fragile says like, hey man, you connected the US or whatever their version of the US is. Now we don't need porters anymore because everybody can connect. You got to move on and go do something else. Go connect the rest of the world, Sam. Drawbridges.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use
a whole world out there.
The rope and the stick this time.
Yep, rope and the stick. I guess back to the Higgs scene. I mean, this goes for everything, but in that one in particular, because there's a dude fighting with like a cyber electric guitar.
Yeah.
Like just conceptually, the idea of this level of insanity being paired with this level of technical execution is hard to fathom, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is kind of like approaching Star Wars prequels levels of I can't believe a guy has this much access to cutting edge technology to make exactly the thing that nobody is going to tell him he can't make. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Like, who else could get away with something that looks like this in every respect, both art design and concept and technical execution?
Yes, like I think that stuff, I'm with you, Brad. That stuff 100% is like, you know, we gave you all the resources. What'd you come up with? Drawbridges. like that
Great.
level of like, or like, what we gave you all the resources. What come with? He plays a guitar, but the guitar shoots stuff out. It's like,
So I saw Mad Max Fury Road, okay?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. George Miller and a different Doof Warrior. One that shoots electricity instead of fire.
I mean, that Higgs character is definitely a Doof Warrior.
Yeah.
The thing I'm kind of interested in, and narratively that I'm interested in, is we are in a different place now than when Death Stranding came out. It seems to hint at maybe the connections were a mistake. Connecting everybody was not the right thing to do for humanity.
Look, man, the internet has atomized everybody. Everybody's connected, and now nobody's connected.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Is this game going to say, look...
The cell phone is a pair of handcuffs. Like, this is not subtle stuff.
Is this game going to be like, maybe we all shouldn't have reconnected. Maybe it's better if we live in isolation.
Very who knows, man. Now we have to just rediscover organic connection.
Oh, I see. Yeah, there's like I don't remember everything. I'm gonna have to go back and read a primer for Death Stranding and what the chiral network and what the whole BTs and how this all worked again. Because
I remember way more of that game than maybe I even should. I don't know. It's just look, say what you will about it. I may not have liked it very much. It left a deep impression on me. I'll give it that.
Put a sandbox mode in here. Let me just like play in that world. Let me just like, do the thing.
Just let me just play American Truck Simulator, but in that world with legs.
Let me deliver a pizza. Let me deliver my cyber pizza.
Pizza and semen. That is a thing you deliver in that game. Okay, I'm not just saying that. That is, in fact, one of the things you can deliver.
To Conan O'Brien.
Does Jeff Keighley come back in this?
Probably.
Same character? The collector?
I don't know.
Still collecting the figurines?
I'll be curious to see what they can do with this on a better platform.
Yeah.
Now that they've got access to the fast storage and stuff, like who knows what kind of weird ideas they might come up with for that gameplay.
If nothing else, I am deeply curious, and I find it. I want more of this. Whether I want more of this, I don't know, but I want more of this.
I'm glad it's getting made, especially because, and I'm not saying I'm desperate for all of Kojima's output all the time. I'm not saying like, I need as much from him as I can get, but in a world where he's now talking about 2 other games he is also working on at the same time.
Right, yes. I guess that's the other big thing.
This is not the only thing he's got coming.
Yeah.
So, no matter how this turns out, there are other Kojima games. That, to me, is the bigger news here.
Sure.
Although it's... Okay, well, let me not put the cart before the horse. He announced his next project here in, like, the most vague terms possible, which is to say he's making another stealth action game.
Yes.
It's what that dude's favorite... I don't even... Who's the president?
Herman Holst.
Herman Holst. His favorite genre. Loves espionage.
Look, I get it.
But this is also on top of that other game they're making, right?
Yes.
Overdose?
OD? Or is it called Overdose now?
I don't know. It was a codename OD. I thought it was Overdose.
I still think of it as OD. But yes. But he does say here, like, he does say this production won't even start until they're done with Death Stranding 2. So this is years down the line. Also, I guess we should mention Death Stranding 2 is out next year. Was that news? I think that was news. They put
it news?
They put a 2025 on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess it's not that far off before they start working on this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Metal Gear Solid, obviously, or just Metal Gear broadly, extremely influential.
Mm-hmm.
But also after everything they did with Metal Gear Solid 5, where like the Metal Gear games before 5 were just kind of like, yes, they were stealth games, but you were not coming to them for the stealth like you were to Splinter Cell or something. Like, MGS5 is so good as a stealth game that now I'm actually super excited to see what they do with this as a mechanical thing. As well as whatever else also, the idea of him having to come up with a new stealth IP.
Hell yeah.
Where he no longer has access to Metal Gear is going to be like a really interesting creative exercise for him.
Yeah, like
having to build out a whole new milieu that is kind of like the old one that he no longer can legally access.
That will be immediately compared to Metal Gear, right?
Right. Like how he, I certainly don't love everything he does, but the way he approaches that, I think, is going to be fascinating.
I think video games are just better in general for Kojima being out there just doing what he does, even if I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need weirdos like him just doing their thing.
Yes. But the pitch on this next game is kind of exactly what I would want to hear to be excited about a new Kojima game.
Yeah, I guess the thing that bummed me, one of the other things that bummed me out about Death Stranding, apart from the story stuff, is that the combat is just not very good in that game.
No, it absolutely is not. I guess the only reason I gave it a pass for that is because it's just not really that core to the game. Like you kind of barely have to engage with the combat. You do,
but there's also still somehow too much of it.
There's some stuff that gets kind of like once you can just knock people out, because the killing people was a big deal, right? Like you can't murder people because then the world explodes.
The void outs happen.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all very interesting. So the OD is the one that's the announced Xbox one, and then it's Fizzint is the unannounced one.
Oh, did they put any kind of name on it?
I thought I saw that read somewhere. Let me see if I can look it up. Hopefully I'm not just inventing that.
That's not in the
PHY. That's not. I didn't just have a.
Oh, he tweeted that. I did not see that.
Is it just from a tweet?
They certainly do not mention that in the state of play that I
unpronounceable.
Is int working title.
That sounds like physics middleware.
Yeah,
totally.
Like physics integer is what I hear when I or something along those lines.
He's got a podcast, doesn't he?
Kojima.
I don't know how often he's doing it or if he's even
Okay.
still doing it. He did some episodes of it for sure.
He's definitely done that sort of thing, but I don't know that it's that regular.
Oh, it's not like a regular thing. Not like go in there and get all the information.
Yeah, all his references to this blending the line with movies and like this drone shot. I cannot believe they
Ends on that.
I cannot believe they set this freaking drone shot up to end this presentation with, where the camera pulls all the way out over Sony Picture Studios. Like, is he going to shoot video for this game?
Wasn't he making a Death Stranding movie?
There is a Death Stranding movie. I don't know if he's making it, but I think there is something in development.
I'm not sure.
You're right. I think a part that was glossed over was he is definitely talking like this is the next thing between Hollywood, video games, in a way I haven't heard since FMV talk.
Right. Like, of course, this is an interactive game, but the look, story, theme, cast, acting, fashion, sound, etc. are all the next level of digital entertainment that could be called a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that even mean? Like,
I don't know, but I'm in for that.
Is he finally just going to film actors on a stage?
I don't know. Did you watch that drone shot? I watched it like 3 times to see because they cut to the fist bump and then they to see if that was filmed in reverse. Because I feel like flying the drone in and landing on that shot might be easier than flying it reverse out, but I don't know.
So, what are the telltale signs? He says something here. So, like, as we know from recent Watchcast experience, talking backwards is difficult.
It's difficult, but you could just dub it in.
And are there people walking around? That's the other one.
So the people are moving boxes around look like they are moving so deliberately that you would have almost been like, are you moving backwards on purpose?
Let's see. I see 2 people. Okay, the guy pushing the box, I absolutely see or the road case. I see what you're saying. This person carrying the ladder, though, I feel like is walking pretty naturally.
Okay.
Oh, and Kojima and Holst walk off the.
They walk off set, but you could walk backwards on. I don't know. It seemed like it was a pretty cool shot. I mean, it flies out of the thing and hovers above whatever Sony studio thing. I
think this is with a skilled drone operator. You could do this.
I bet you program it now too. I bet you program the path and just have it fly.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's interesting. It's better. Is it better than like Kojima doing one more thing or like a snake coming out of a box? No, but it's it's all right.
Snake is never coming out of that box, dude.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of don't want him to just do FMV. I hope that's not what he's gesturing
it can't just
here.
be. No, you don't scam people like that for FMV.
Well, no, I mean for the next game though. That's a ways off.
No, I bet he's going like. You can't even tell the line anymore, man.
That I'm fine with.
Yeah. Anyway. That was the state of play. That's a lot of look, Kojima's still a big character, a big personality. Draws
still a
crowd.
threat.
I enjoy I might not agree with all the game choices, but I enjoy a thing. A little quickly here, or not a little quickly, that's a good sentence, Vinny. Quickly here, but not a big news. The Last of Us stuff on the heels of the Sony. When's The Last of Us 3 coming out, Brad?
I don't know. Is it coming out? Who can say? Well, the actual story here is that lengthy documentary about the making of The Last of Us Part 2 just came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. That thing is referenced in the remaster that just came out on PS5, but it's not in there. Granted, you probably don't want to pack 2 hours of 4K video with your game download if you can help it. But it's weird that thing is like, it's like, hey, watch Grounded, the making of Last of Us Part 2, and then it's not actually, it didn't come out for a couple weeks after. Anyway, that thing came out now. Neil Druckmann is all but saying, hey, we're making Last of Us Part 3 in there.
Yeah.
There, quote, probably is one more chapter to this story. Oh, probably, you say.
Sure.
After both games have done extremely well, and then that TV show kind of blew up.
Not kind of. I mean, it's one of HBO's more successful shows of the last several years.
Yeah, I think you're right. Some people kind of made a big deal out of the fact that it got more or less shut out at the Emmys.
I don't know. I don't know how much stock to put in that sort of thing.
But yeah, I don't necessarily either. I think certainly it generated a lot of buzz among people that I know that don't even play games.
Totally.
I'll say that. Anyway, this got me to go back and look at the blog post that Naughty Dog put up when they canceled The Last of Us. Did they ever call it Factions, the multiplayer game?
That's what I've seen it referred to.
The Factions was the first one from ages ago. The Last of Us Online looks like what they were saying. Anyway, when they canceled that, We have more than one ambitious brand new single player game that we're working on. Because I was reminded that I think they've said that they are working on a new IP at some point. There are a lot of rumors that it's some kind of science fiction thing. Who knows if those are right, but hey, rumors seem to turn out to be right a lot these days.
Sometimes. I would like to see them do a sci-fi thing. I'm cool with
totally.
that.
I don't know what I would want out of that from them.
And personally, I would rather see that than A Last of Us Part 3. I don't know.
Desperately would rather see that. I just want to see something new from them.
I don't feel the need for more Last of Us at all.
No.
But that's why I went and looked at this and was reassured to see that they say they are working on multiple games. Maybe they're becoming a 2-game studio. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. If you're going to do something in the Last of Us world at this point, I would much rather not have anything to do with the main characters from the cast, and I would rather just see completely different side stories. I just let those characters live in peace or whatever state they left in.
Well, here's the thing. Now they are in a Game of Thrones situation where
who's writing whom?
The TV show based on the thing blew up so much that now they need more material to base the TV show on, or the TV show is just going to have to keep going on its own, which they certainly could do.
I mean, didn't The Walking Dead at some point also kind of get out ahead of where the comics are? And
probably.
I mean, and also went beyond the comics because they started doing all those spin-off series.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, they could just continue the show irrespective of what the game franchise does or doesn't. Mm-hmm. But I bet there's a strong push inside for Naughty Dog to continue steering the ship on that.
I hope so. I mean, I didn't really stick with the show too much. I watched a couple of episodes and kind of bounced away from it. But that universe, it feels like a lot has been said in that universe. Something new would be fun.
Yeah. I definitely don't need more of what they did. I mean, they could. I've said it more times than I can count, like, oh, I don't need more of X, and then they do more X, and it's like, oh, they actually did something different with it.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I should never write it off, but it's absolutely going to be about those characters because they needed to tie into the show now.
I guess maybe, like, personally, there's so much suffering for those characters in 2. Like, they're so drawn excruciatingly out in the, like, suffering of everybody throughout that whole thing that, like,
it's borderline misery porn.
It really is. And like by the end of it, you're just like, just get on the boat and go.
Yes, I mean, I think we've all said this before. Like, A, that's core to the game's point, but B, it makes the point to the point of tedium, or it belabors it so much longer than it ever possibly needed to.
Maybe we get it.
Bad choices are continually being made. Maybe the third one's just like a farming simulator where you're just kind of like, you're sowing the seeds of new humanity. So it's still rumor. I think the takeaway from that too is like, if and when this Last of Us 3 is coming, it won't be for a long time.
Probably not. But who knows? Who knows what that means about the multiple games and how they're doing things?
It'll be on an Xbox, and you'll be able to play it there. When that new Xbox comes out. All right. Does that do it for the news?
Yep.
That's it for the news, folks. We do have an email address. It is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. Brad Shoemaker, you got an email or two there you want to get to? A couple of folks writing in, picking our brains, want to know what's boiling over.
Sure. Here's a question for Alex from Matthew in DC.
Mm-hmm.
I've played a few of the Yakuza games, watched you guys play 0, and then played 1, 2, and Judgment, and I want to play the most recent in the series, Like a Dragon. Infinite Wealth, I think, is what it means. Am I missing out on anything from games 3 through 6? Are there any that you'd really recommend playing?
So 6 is the only one of those I've fully finished, but I did play actually a fair amount of 5, and I thought 5 was very good. 3 and 4 are the ones that have gotten the least amount of remaster from all of the various things they have done in the re-releases, and they're a little rough in that way. But there are definitely people I know who swear by those games too as like definitely vital to the Yakuza canon. But I would say if you're gonna try and meet these out a little bit, 6 is the one that kind of leads into all the Kiryu stuff that happens in 7 and the most recent one. 5 is its own kind of standalone story, but I think is probably worth investing in if you want to. 6 is the only one I would say is absolutely necessary if you want to just like connect the dots between where these games are now and where they were at the end of the Kiryu saga.
There you go. Alex's guide to
that's the best I can do right now. You know, it's like, look, my recommendation is try them all out, but I also realize that's like 1,000 hours of games. So yes, you have to pick your battles.
Zach wrote in about the shooting gallery.
Oh, okay.
Which I guess we talked about on the Ramblecast recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think is where one of the many podcasts that we talk about things on. I think that's where that was. I had no idea Vinny worked for the shooting gallery.
Uh-oh.
Did he know Bob Gossa? He was one of the founders and one of my mentors and professors in college.
Okay. I don't think I knew him particularly. Was not in my division. That's funny though. I knew like I said, I was more on the design side of things, and there was Gun for Hire and the shooting gallery, and those are two separate things. I worked more on the shooting gallery. Gun for Hire was more like the movie side of stuff, which I wanted to get into, but it was my first job trying to do my stuff. But yeah, a lot of very cool designers there, and a very .com-y explosion at the end. I don't know if Bob's the one that got punched in the face. I'd have to look it up.
All right. How about a couple of thought starters?
All right.
From Travis and Fargo.
I love a thought starter, yes.
Who I feel is giving Nathan from Tumwater a run for his money. If there were no new video games released ever again starting tomorrow, how would this affect your life and your gaming habits? Would you be relieved to finally get a chance to catch up on old games? Are there enough video games that already exist for you to play to keep you satisfied for the rest of your life? I really think it's the last question that's actually worth contemplating here.
There are enough video games to keep me satisfied for the rest of my natural life. Absolutely.
Are there? I don't know, man.
Dude, there's so many video games.
I'm a pretty old man, so rest of my natural life, it's like, without replaying, because I don't replay a lot of games. Let's say online services disappeared too, so we're mostly playing offline. No, online services stick around.
Let's be generous and say like every game that exists is still playable in perpetuity.
So like you could play through the whole Destiny 2 campaign and everything there.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean that's a lot of game then. Like
yeah.
Some people play the same game their whole life by choice.
I could do that, honestly.
I think Frank's still playing Command and Conquer. I think he just boots up Command and Conquer.
For God's sakes, I still play Rock Band.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a bajillion older games that I would love to play or replay.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I guess I probably could fill my time with that stuff.
Let's also be generous and say you can play everything how you want to play it, right? Regardless of state of the console. Yeah, on the platform you want it to. PC stuff still works. You don't have to find weird workarounds and all that. Yeah,
I think people really underestimate just how many video games there are in the world now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that bums me out is that we would not get to enjoy the forward march of progress anymore, both on the technical and design levels.
Yes.
You know?
No, I'm not saying that's my preferable outcome. I'm just saying that if this thought experiment happens, then I can live.
Yeah, yes, everybody would be fine. But I would be kind of bummed.
I feel like it's kind of connected to that. Everything would become a collector's item, obviously. Like I wonder if digital libraries would just start making weird black market moves and, there's no new games. Whatever you have is what you have. I guess I bet piracy would explode.
Like, I mean, more than it already has.
Yeah, more than it is. Like there'd just be repositories for everything at this point.
More than there already is.
What did we do for Game of the Year? Was it all video games disappeared? It wasn't that there were no new games. It was
literally all the games are gone. Like I opened a copy of Madden and there was no disc in it. It's just it's gone.
It's gone, right? And then you went to go walk the earth.
Yes, and I did. Like fucking Qui-Gon Kane. Yes,
covered some with a colander on your head. Mm-hmm. We've covered some of this too.
Just like Qui-Gon Kane. Yes.
Brad, any more emails?
Yeah, how about one more from Travis, also in Fargo.
Okay.
Same person. Would you accept a jetpack from a total stranger?
Accept it? Maybe. Use it? No. Total stranger. Okay. I'll paint the scenario for you. You turn a corner in San Francisco, Brad. Somebody in very like weird, you can't even describe what kind of getup it is. Bumps into you, they're running, bumps into you, says, take this, you need to take this and use it, and then runs off around the corner and you never see them again. Possibly they look like they fell out of a portal from the future, and this jetpack looks put together. It looks like the Rocketeer jetpack. It doesn't look like one of the, like, what a real jetpack looks like, which is a piece of garbage strapped to your back. This looks like a cool jetpack. Do you take it and use it? Around
here, absolutely fucking not. I have lived here way too long. I am way too acquainted with the way people in the South Bay think. There are any number of delusional tech assholes working on jetpacks as we speak.
Okay,
there is no way I am accepting the San Francisco jetpack.
The San Francisco jetpack just stays on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, what do you think?
No.
I'm
not trusting a jetpack ever.
Yeah, that thing I feel like a jetpack in our current technology just doesn't work. You're either not getting the lift you want or you're burning your butt. Like I've seen the videos of people doing jetpacks and they just don't look cool.
No. They look like you have to do a ton of setup and then you can do it for a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
And if you try and go any further than that, you will either explode or fall.
You ever see video of these like water jetpacks?
Yes, I was just going to say the water things look cooler than
that's
the
more viable,
jetpack.
and also you will have a softer landing so long as you don't go too high.
That I want to try. I don't know what the name is for those things, but
water jetpack.
Sure.
No jetpack. No, I think it's just too. I would maybe open it up, but even then it gets a little sketchy, and I'd probably want to run it through an X-ray machine or something like that. Rocketeer's a good movie though. It's a fun movie.
Yeah. No, look, believe that was the movie that started me down my desire to own a jetpack, and then I learned a lot, and I decided that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
I've never seen The Rocketeer. I wonder if it holds up.
It's pretty cheesy, but I remember it being fun.
I remember it being fun.
I wonder if we would have a reason to watch The Rocketeer at some point.
Jennifer Connelly month.
It'll never happen. I do think that movie came out in 1990. Not to spoil anything, but yeah.
Jennifer Connelly, Dark City.
I would do a Jennifer Connelly month.
I mean, gladly.
The original Hulk, right? The Ang Lee Hulk is Jennifer Connelly, and the Rocketeer, and Labyrinth.
I don't know why this came. Actually, I do know why this came to mind because it has this similar like style and setting to the Rocketeer. Is Sky Captain a jetpack movie? It's not, is it? He doesn't have a jetpack.
He was a pilot in that.
Yeah, that's for Jude Law month.
I think he's just a pilot. But yes, Jude Law science fiction month quite literally is a category on the Watchcast doc that has been sitting there for over a year.
I think it's AI, Gattaca.
A lot of Jude Law science fiction movies.
All right, Brad, let me add on to Travis's question here quickly. Somebody hands you a hoverboard.
Yeah, I think the stakes are low enough there. Okay.
And it actually is hovering.
Yeah. You take it. Again, you're only going to fall like 2 feet or something.
You could probably crack your head pretty good.
I guess.
So you take the hoverboard?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, look, once that thing's hovering, you know it's working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just know they don't work on water.
No, of course not.
And I meant, when I said hoverboard, I meant those weird things you stand on that burst into flames.
Obviously.
Of course. All right. That's going to do it for emails.
Yes.
I do have a correction.
Okay, yes.
Corrections.
Uh-huh.
I said Qui-Gon Kane. It's Qui-Chang Kane.
Okay.
I got mixed up.
I was trying to, when you said that, I was just like, is he doing some Kung Fu Star Wars mashup here?
No, my brain just mashed two things together.
I'm just going to let that one go.
Yeah. No, it's Qui-Chang Kane.
Oh, while we're in the correction section, I did not know this, and it's a real, like, today I learned. Brad, you were right in that Temple of Doom does come before Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It
does. A lot of people pointed that out.
I thought that was the case.
I had no idea. My entire life, no idea.
I think what I realized is that I paid very precious little attention to the details of that movie and mostly just shut my brain off for the dumb adventure of it.
Sure. Yes. I guess I think people said it takes place like a year before the other one.
A little bit before, yeah.
But that's going to do it for the emails and corrections section. of the podcast, and that's going to lead us to our wrapping things up here. Interesting news section, interesting talk about them video games, Suicide Squad and the whatnot, and Xbox clearly getting out of the video console market.
And I think next week we'll have more to say on more of the Next Fest demos.
Yes, and we're going to be playing Helldivers on Friday, which I'm actually really excited to jump into. Brad, you and I are jumping into Pal World.
Yes. I feel like, boy, just in the nick of time.
Whoa, no, what happened with Pal
I feel
World?
like nothing. I just feel like discussion has
ended?
I just don't see anybody talking about it all. I mean, it's huge still, of course.
Yeah, it's still doing hella numbers. I think just everyone knows what it is.
Yes, exactly. I feel like the conversation is moving on, so we need to get in there and see what the hell that is.
That's the Nextlander promise.
Yep.
Right at the peak of the things. We're right on.
Right as your attention is waning, here we come.
Look, we are soberly appraising this game with our years of experience. After the dust has settled. This is where you come for.
Honestly, that's not too far off. I kind of wanted to see where things net out with that game.
Yes. Yeah, like we talked about playing it the day it came out, but then it was just why don't we let this one go for a little bit and see how
things bear out.
Yeah, if this is still on a marketplace in a day. So we'll have that. Like Brad said, you can go check out his archive of Final Fantasy VII Remake is up now. Alex and I get into some hijinks over in the Cyberpunk verse. You could see my best version of a Cyberpunk ninja.
I don't know if that was a real hijinky episode. That was maybe more of a, boy, this is dark as fuck episode.
Compared to what happened on the Gaiden episode, it's just chuckles and good times.
All right.
So you can go check out where things are going there. Let's just say it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
It's
going in some directions.
It's all happening. We recorded a Never Been a Better podcast. Mostly we talk about movies and stuff like that, and movies we like, movies we hate, movies we like, but probably people should know about us liking them. A lot of movie talk. That's going to hopefully go up maybe next week. That'll go up. I got to edit that thing. Could go up this week, but probably next week. You can check that out along next week on next Monday, the finale of our Twin Peaks Season 2 Watchcast.
Yeah.
We
nearly
recorded
3 hours of discussion without even me putting clips in yet, so
3 hours of
3-hour tour
of find out. We dissect it all. We figure it all out. We come to all the right conclusions.
Obviously.
And you can check that out. And you can check that out over on patreon.com/Nextlander, where you can find a tier that is right for you. Bunch of stuff up there. Like I said, Never Been a Better podcast, which is this week. I believe it was Abby and Dan Reichert joining us to talk on that one. Watchcast, you can be current on that. We got the Ramblecast up there. Planorama is up there. All the stuff, all the stars are here over on patreon.com/Nextlander. And also you can go to there to just support us. You can find a tier that's right for you. There is one tier there, though, that gets their names read on this here show, the mysterious Benefactor tiers. And I'm going to read those names right now, starting with Sean Miller, RRE, Infelicitous Rips, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee. This next name is really long and I gotta stretch out the whole thing. Deidre thinks that Pokemon could always use guns, they just choose not to. Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, Bunny Fiend, the Jad Rita, Statics, Fantasticasm89, Andrew Jackson, Mega Crane, Razgriz II, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiepkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. Thanks for supporting us, and thanks to everyone who has supported us over at patreon.com/Nextlander. Just a little heads up. I'm going to say this here. We had the Q&A. A very good Q&A. Best Q&A. We had the best people in the Q&A. We had the best Q&A.
Only the best people.
Only the best people.
They
only
just
the best
keep getting
Qs.
better.
Only the best Qs. Only the best A's. we've got some stuff shifting around here. One of the things that we're looking into, we've been talking about trying to get stuff going, some more in-person stuff, some in-person stuff. Website stuff is on the docket, the stuff that we've been talking about doing. Nothing big for a website, but, one of the things that we have talked about, geez, Brad and Alex, what has it been for like a year-ish? I'm like, boy, it'd be good to have a place where we could just put all the schedule stuff.
Yeah, a content aggregator, if you will.
Yeah, some of those things. So heads up if you're looking around, and some people have mentioned it, those are things we've been looking into and talking about and researching and trying to figure out. So some things moving around there in the background. And Alex, you and I have been talking about possibly taking a trip in the near future.
Yeah, maybe out to a place where the gamers are. Yes,
going out there. We're still trying to put the details on that, but it's always fun to share. It's always fun to share. Get people's hopes up and then crush them.
Absolutely.
Is what I've learned about the video games industry over the last 20 years. Hopes up, heavy blow, crush. Thanks everybody for supporting us, getting out there and listening and sharing the good word. Thank you, Alex Navarro.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad Shoemaker. And we'll be back next week.